All right, guys, Ronin Man here. I'm here with Mr. Smith in San Francisco. We're just kind of beautiful morning, and we're just going to talk about. I want to talk about a very serious topic, and it is right now. There is you probably heard about it. Facebook is being investigated, and there's like congressional level things in the United States. There are many other countries that are considering censoring Facebook, limiting Facebook. Facebook is blocked in China. There's like a lot of Facebook's power, is being challenged. And, a lot of people right now, there's obviously everybody uses it. 60% of internet users are using it. 60 or 65% of people on the internet use Facebook all the time, right? So it's a huge thing. It's $1 trillion company. And right now, for the first time, they're really considering doing serious regulation, either breaking it up or whatever. And I wanted to give my view of how this whole thing works, because it's very relevant to us as guys, because a lot of the, laws and censorship and things, they're related to stuff that we hold dear. It's like stuff that we're fighting against, and like, while there are points here that are very true, the way they're going to be implemented, it's very important for you as a guy to really understand this concept, whether you use Facebook or not. It's like, this is a huge societal issue that is affecting the way people think, the way corporations act, and the way you're treated, by other people and in courts, and even families, because families are breaking up over politics now. People are divorcing over who voted for who, right? And Facebook is being accused of kind of fermenting that divisiveness in society. So I'd say first off, I would say it's probably true that the internet definitely, and Facebook is the internet, right, in many ways. So let's just call it that to make it simple, right? Let's say Facebook is the internet, right? It's fermenting divisive views. And why is that? It's because the way that Facebook operates is they have an algorithm. And you hear a lot of people who are like rampaging against the algorithm. The algorithm is, racist. Their algorithm is sexist. The algorithm is whatever. There's always a lot of vitriolic terms about, quote unquote, the algorithm. But I want to tell you what the algorithm is, because basically, let's look back at TV. What is television? Television, I've been on television a lot, right? I've been interviewed a lot. I've been on TV. I'm not like a movie star or anything, but I've been in movies. I've done a lot of things in the media. I helped a lot of media film in Asia. I helped like film crews shoot things, choose locations. It was just a fun job for me. I put up it was like crazy how it happened, because I was busy with my life, right? But I just put up this blog post, and then it was like, I'll help you film in Asia. And then it was just, I guess it was well written or whatever, and just went pretty viral with TV shows. And they would like contact me and say, okay, we want to shoot in Asia. We need help, right? Because they had the right permits, or, they never knew how to do it. So I noticed that nobody online was doing it. And so I was like, hey, I want to, because what happened was I was on a TV show, and then this girl was there, and she was like American. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, like, I'm helping the TV show. And she told me the name, which I don't want to tell you, because if you search it, you'll find my stuff. So anyway, she had a name for what she was doing. And I was like, oh, really? And so then I went and wrote my blog post, because I realized she didn't speak Chinese. She didn't know what she was doing. She was nice, but
this was all in China.
It was all in China, but I did it in Japan too. But we did it all over the place. But it started in China. So she said, I'm doing this. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So then I wrote that blog post of how I could help people do things and what I knew about Asia. And the thing went, I guess, in the TV world, is there was nobody else. There was nothing else online for them. So they would we're going to go to Asia. Okay. They would search the internet. This article's down now. So it's been down for a long time, but I lost the domain. When I left, I just let the domain expire. But so they started just contacting me, TV show after TV show. We want to shoot a documentary. We want to, and I got all these interesting inquiries from people. I met a lot of interesting people too, and I helped film a lot of interesting shows. It was fucking fascinating. If you know my personality, I love that kind of stuff where, I'm just thrown into a new world, whether it's like organic plants or organic farming and new techniques for this or science of that or history of this. And, one of the most interesting guys actually contacted me was a guy whose family used to own 140 huge warehouses in Shanghai before the communists took over. And it was all nationalized. His family lost everything. So he is now a filmmaker in England, but he has no money. He's like, his family's poor. But they lost everything to the communist revolution, right? A lot of people don't realize that, the communists, they stole the land from all the owners and killed a lot of them too. His family didn't get killed, but like that was what happened. That's the asset they sell back to the people, right? They sell the land back. The lease, 99-year leases, 70-year leases back to the people, right? So anyway, he was one of the most interesting guys, and he really was fascinated with me too. And like we ran around and looked at his the warehouses his family used to own. He wasn't resentful at all. Like I was more resentful hearing the story than he was. He was just telling me the story like it's historical, his life, and he wanted to make a documentary. We never did it, but we're good friends, and it was like I met these type of people, and he was like the guy was like he knew so much about China, like he had such a deep knowledge, like he could go so deep, and we could just talk about Chinese culture and like what happened and this and that, and people too. He knew so much because he was a very intelligent guy too. That's the other thing. He wasn't just a filmmaker. He's like a super smart guy.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And I still talk to him. He's on my Facebook. Yeah. So anyway,
maybe we can do that tour sometime.
Yeah. He's definitely an interesting guy. I'll tell you that. But I met, and very sensitive too. But I met a lot of people through helping film crews, right? And so they would come to me with like, okay, we have this concept, we want to shoot this. And I would just tell them, basically, they would say like, basically, I'll just tell you how it went. They'd say, okay, we want to film this, we want to film this, we want to film this. So we want you to get a license, get it all approved. So we have all the procedures in place. And, and I would basically tell them.
And also help them find the location.
They help find locations. Like they would say, like, we want this type of scene, and you find the location.
You're like, I know the place.
Exactly. Okay. We want to show, this. And what was that part of it was really interesting because a lot of times I would tell them, like I would show them, take them to a place, and they would say, no good. And I would be like I was like, oh shit, like
they don't have a plan B.
They flew all the way over here, and I got the wrong location. And then what I realized over time was that it's really hard to shoot TV, And I was doing a great job. Like they knew I just didn't have a full understanding of what TV was yet. Like what is the media? So I would have a concept. I would have like an idea, but it was more of an idea if me and you went walking through Shanghai. My idea was like something that would fit that for walking, but not for television. Television media it's a totally different thing when it's on camera. There's things that are very interesting in real life and they're boring on camera, or they don't. That like people that are watching that have no background, they see it and they don't know what it is. They can't understand it. Where sometimes the film has to include something that will allow their brains to say, oh, that's Shanghai, or you know what I mean? Or, so they might need some kind of an icon in the background or something. Like there's things in TV you have to present to people in order to make it, to get the idea to the average person, right? So that everybody can understand without explaining everything. That's what TV is. You just look at it and you're like, oh wow, they're in Japan. You know what I mean? Like it's unspoken. That's the thing about video is like you're getting two messages. One is the visual about things, and then there's the audio, right? Explaining things, right? But you want to give as much. I think you want to give as much visual stuff as possible in it, so that people know already what. It's very boring to explain things. It's much better if you can just let it be known. Like when you communicate with your brother about something, like you both don't even need to talk about it. You're like, oh, that time.
Look at each other.
Yeah, like that time when dad, like everybody starts laughing, right? That's kind of like the magic of long-term relationships. And that's like the magic, I think, of media is that you can present things where, it can move along quickly because a sophisticated movie can it's like you're getting so much out of it, without it being
Every frame, every scene is telling a lot of information.
right. Sure. It's subtle things too, right? So anyway, so that allowed me to that gave me a very deep understanding of media, and so a lot of people like on this channel like really hate mainstream media and everything, but not many people know the media. Like, what is the media? Like, we all watch it, whether we like it or not. I was in a very unique position where I'd been in movies already when I was like young. Like I modeled when I was in college. I did surfing clothes and stuff. Like I did different things where I'd be on something. Because basically, you guys just hear my voice, but I would say one of my main skills is like on camera. I can talk on camera. And so often when there's like when there's a, like say a disaster, the film crew would come and there'd be all these people and they would pick me to be on the team. They'd come right up to me and interview me. And then I was interviewed a lot of times, like whenever I'm just standing in an airport, like people just, like it always happens. Like I was in the airport one time in LA waiting in line and this film crew came in and they were like, it was just the time when 9/11 had happened and they were like now having all these procedures. So basically in LA, the left media was basically against it, totally against it, right? And they were saying like, it's like stupid, and I wasn't personally. I thought it was kind of good that they were checking people, Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so then I was standing there with this, I forgot who it was, some Japanese girl. And so I said, oh, they're the film crew. And then she goes, and the airport was full of people. I said, they're going to interview me. And she goes, oh, you think you're so great. And then they looked around, they looked right at me and walked over to me. And she was like, God damn it. And they interviewed, but then they didn't use it because they go, well, what do you think? And I said, well, I think it's good that they're, checking people, I think it's good that, that they're starting to, change procedure so this doesn't happen again, basically, And anyway, I had my opinion at the time, and they didn't like that opinion. So a lot of times when I get on the media, they don't use it. So that's the funny thing is that a lot of times they have their own idea of what they're going to present, and then they don't like it if you have another time that happened to me.
They'll show it if your opinion aligns with their agenda.
Yes, but that's not necessarily bad either. That's the interesting thing. So I was eating in an Afghan restaurant in New York, the moment that we started the attack on Afghanistan. So right after 9/11, I flew to New York because I wanted to see. The fires were still burning. And I stayed with my friend Mark, and I was just, every day I'd walk down to Ground Zero, and I was quite fascinated with this whole thing. I honestly think was one of the very first 9/11 tourists. Like nobody was there. Like it was the very beginning. It was very somber and very serious, and the smoke was really bad for your lungs. You could feel it when you were down at 9/11, And I saw like all kinds of things. Like I saw a group of Muslims laughing and everything. I saw a lot of stuff. I was right there in the beginning, and it was very cool, like to do it. And my friend, he lived there, and he was my friend from Japan. He said, "Hey, come on over." I was like, "Sure." So anyway, I, as an expat, was very aware of how I was looked at in Japan, and like for example, if let's say if America beat Japan in a big game, sports game, the taxis wouldn't pick me up that day.
Oh, interesting.
Because they were like pissed off, And taxis are like the lowest level, They are like the ground level people, so they can tell you where the population is at, right? The sophisticated people, they're going to pretend, right? But what I like about taxi drivers is they're straight.
They're honest.
They're not going to pick you up. Fuck you,
Yeah.
You beat us. Fuck you, And so I knew what people were thinking, when they wouldn't pick. So anyway, so I was sitting in this. I deliberately looked around for an Afghan restaurant to eat at. Just the moment we started dropping bombs. So it was just right then. They had just started dropping bombs, and I found this Afghan restaurant. I sat down, and when I was in there, I was the only one in the whole restaurant. And the guy was so grateful. He like came over, like the family came over because nobody was going there because it was Afghanistan. We were dropping bombs, right? And I was in an Afghan restaurant, and they looked like Afghans, like they were fully dressed, and the restaurant was fully ornate and everything. Right. And I was like really, I just ordered everything because at the time I was, had plenty of money. I was just like ordering whatever it was, like a full meal, like a full fucking big pieces of big, bones and huge pieces of meat and very manly shit. Yeah, I was just sitting there, So I had this huge feast in front of me. And just right then, this Japanese film crew came in. Just by total chance, they came into the restaurant.
Ooh, this is in Japan?
No, this is in New York.
This is in New York.
This is in New York,
but
right?
A Japanese film crew.
A Japanese film crew came in. And so I'm sitting there, and they came up to me, and they said, in English, they said, basically, why are you here? Like your country's at war with Afghanistan. And I answered in Japanese, right? I said, because I was living in Tokyo, so I just answered in Japanese. I just said, in Tokyo, I explained about the taxi drivers not picking me up. And when there was a national thing, people would take it on, against me as an individual. And I said, I don't like that. I don't do that myself. I don't have anything against the Afghan people. I said, I want to support the Afghan people just like I want to be treated myself in Tokyo as an individual. These guys didn't blow up the towers. They just have a restaurant here, and they're just trying to make a living. And obviously a lot of people are total idiots, don't understand that, and are not eating here. So I'm eating here to show that I know the difference, between people. And it's like one person, just because they're of this group, it doesn't make them that, So, and the Japanese film crew, well, they didn't like it because I was essentially criticizing the way I was treated in Japan and tying it into, they were trying to say, they were making their own thing, and of course they didn't use it, but it was one of these things that, interesting in my life. But anyway, so I just ended up on TV a lot, or was interviewed and didn't get used a lot. And through that, I understood a lot of things. And then as I started to help film crews in China, they would tell me what their story was. So they would say, we want to do a story about this. So for example, let me give you an example. So I was helping a guy who's now dead, a friend of mine, Bill Marcus, and he said, we're going to do a story. I was at the Beijing Olympics, so I was interviewing, I was translating gold medal winners. So they would talk, and I would talk in Chinese for the TV, right? So I was translating, their speeches and stuff, right?
From English to Chinese.
Yeah, to Chinese, yeah, or the other way around, Mm-hmm. And so I was there, and so Bill, yeah, I was doing a good job, and I was doing all this stuff, and it was all fun. I was staying with all the reporters, and it was pretty neat because I'm not a reporter, I was just totally normal guy, and I just was leaving my company in Shanghai just to do this, And I was there for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. It was really fun. And I had a free place to stay, and I met all of these famous people. It was really cool. Every morning we'd have this buffet breakfast, and I met tons of people, right? It was super cool. I love that kind of stuff. I love variety, right? So anyway, Bill one day, he said, it's cool to be able to use his name it's not cool that he passed away. It's sad because he was a very interesting guy, but it's nice to be able to say someone's name. You know what I mean? So anyway, Bill said to me, he goes, do you have time this afternoon? I have to do a story. I need some help. So I said, okay. He said, I need to translate, I need a translator. And I said, well, what's the topic? And he was like, they're going to tear down this one part of town, and they're protesting, Now Bill, although he did live in China for a couple of years or whatever, he didn't have the same understanding of China that I had. I had a much deeper understanding of China. I was much more in China than he was. He would travel, and he was there, and he would leave. And, I was there totally focused. And plus I had the background of 16 years in Japan, so that also, and I'd been in China a lot. We met in China me and Bill met probably in 93 or something like that. 94, I was visiting China, helping build bowling alleys, actually. I was helping a Japanese company make bowling alleys. Yeah. And it was quite fun, yeah. This chick I knew, she was like a total sugar mom for me. Anyway, she was building all these bowling alleys. I was there helping her do that. And just on a bit, for a couple months. It was fun. But anyway, so I met Bill during that time. So we became friends, and he kind of contacted me when he moved to Shanghai. And so then, I rented him a room, and then we became friends, and he helped me, do all kinds of stuff. And I don't want to say because you can look it up and easy to find my name. So anyway, Bill said, look, I want to do this story and I have to do this story. And I said, and he goes, he didn't, Bill didn't want to know what I thought because Bill had a story to do and he had a very limited time. And you don't get paid that much money for doing stories. You know what I mean? It's like you just got to get them done. You know, like TaskRabbit. You're doing a task. You just got to get it done. It's like you don't have a lot of time to think about all the other things in life. You just get it done, get it on time, get paid. You know, that's a lot of people don't understand that about reporters. They think that everybody's Illuminati. They're more like Mechanical Turk or TaskRabbit or Fiverr. Think about that way. Like when you're getting paid $5 to do a job, and of course you could think about it more, but you're only getting paid $5. You know, just get it done. You know, that's more what reporters are thinking. They're not thinking let's brainwash the world, let's control the world,
let's make this the greatest masterpiece of all time. It's just like they're getting paid a certain amount, often paid per word or per minute or whatnot. It's like the quicker they can get it done, the better they're making, the more money they're actually making on a per hour basis.
Right, and also the more crazy stories they take, the more other stories they get. They in other words, if you say, well, I don't know anything about that, I can't do a story on that, then they'll stop using you because they're like, you're not very useful. They want the reporter who's like, any story, I'll do it. Rodinga, no problem.
Well, and the same with like on TaskRabbit, you know.
It's exactly
half the time you're getting hired for a job you've never done before, you don't actually know how to do it, and so you have to figure it out and learn it on the fly as you're doing it.
Right. And if you say, I don't know how to do it.
If you keep turning things down, then you're like, oh, I've never done that before. You'll turn down most of the jobs that come your way.
This is exactly what reporters are. Exactly. Okay. People like everybody. I can't believe how many people think everybody's Illuminati. I mean, it's crazy. These guys are getting paid $50, $75. Reporters are poor. They have no fucking money. Like I know, I rented rooms to these guys. Like I have friends with them, even the top guys. Like I knew a guy he was the head of a big division of Fox News. He had a very cheap apartment that he owned, and he sold it, and then long story, now he's got no money again. He tried to make his own blog, and he hired a couple people, and his money was gone. And you know, he was like a top guy, like he was a top media guy. Like there's just not that much money in media. The people that make money in media, it's like the Rupert Murdochs, you know, those type of people. They own all the newspapers and stuff. You know, they eventually the top owners. But the reporters themselves and the people they got no money. They're not fucking Illuminati, you guys. They're just fucking barely making ends meet. Like they're like wearing the same clothes. They're like the one who cheaps out on everything. You know, they're just like basically just trying to make it, trying to survive. Basically, you know, it's really like for Bill's room that he rented from us. It was like he rented like one room in a 3-bedroom shared apartment in Shanghai. And Shanghai prices were not high.
Yeah.
So think about how poor he was to just rent one room. I mean, he had like crazy college students drinking in the next room, right? And he's like doing serious articles, you know, stories for like everything. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird how people don't know anything about what's going on in the media. But so anyway, so the media, and that would be Facebook in this case, they have to make decisions about things. So, for example, why did those news, what do you call it? I can't even think of the name, but the people that are recording, interviewing people, why did they choose me? The reason why they chose me in the LAX and different places is because they look at you and they think, could this guy be good on camera? So what they do is this. There'll be one manager, I forgot her name. There'll be like a person who's like in charge of the crew. And then basically they'll choose you and they'll turn on the camera. And then there's like several people. There's like a sound guy. There's a lighting guy. There's the guy with the camera. And there's somebody else who basically just looks at you. Like, okay, so the camera's facing at you, right? So we're looking directly at each other. Just to the left, there'll be somebody else who's looking at you and nodding and everything in order to keep you, your face enthusiastic. If you just look at the camera, you've got no emotion. So a good TV crew will have one person who's like looking at you as if you're talking to them.
Yeah.
So part of the reason why we're doing well is because you're looking at me right now. So we're talking, right? So that's what's making this interesting, is because if I was just talking to myself, it's much harder to do it, right? So you're nodding, you're looking. That right there is the magic of good TV, good media. They will have somebody there looking at me when I'm on TV, right? So anyway, then there's another person behind the camera and they're looking at me, and then they make a decision within 1 second, 2 seconds, if you've got it. If you've got it. And it is some ability to somehow to where you can make the camera work. You know what I mean? Like you can do it. You can capture people's interest and convey concepts. You got it, right? It's just an it. It's a fucking it.
Yeah, you have that ability to perform on cue. It's like boom, you're able to just jump in and just immediately take what they throw it. It's like they throw you this idea, they throw you this question, and you just immediately roll with it. You've got the right level of enthusiasm. You got the right level
and
of
also
engagement.
your face looks good
eyes,
on camera.
Everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Yeah, it's like the guy's watching. He's like, I'm bored. If in the first couple of seconds he's like, this guy's boring me. All right, cut.
That's right, because TV is so brutal.
Yeah.
That if you don't somehow you're not charismatic on camera, then no one's going to watch it. So the TV crews, their job is to find somebody who's enthusiastic on camera. So that's why you get a lot of people that are not that knowledgeable at topics, because you as a viewer, it's because of you. It's not because of the TV shows. It's because you as a viewer will turn it off if the guy's not enthusiastic. So he could be very knowledgeable. It's not their fault, in other words. You're the viewer, okay? We are the viewers, right? And we are the ones who will turn it off. So we're the ones that will complain about it, but we're also the ones that will turn it off. Like we'll say, oh, that guy didn't know anything. But then we'll turn off the guy who knows everything because he's boring on camera. Right. See, so the TVs, they know this. The TV people, they know us better than we know ourselves in this way. So they'll pick somebody who's good on camera, enthusiastic, and then they might even teach them what they need to know in order to complete their knowledge or whatever. They'll because they need somebody who is charismatic on camera, right? So that's an essential part of television. So, and then the TV, that's just shooting the TV, right? But then you also have like advertisers, and they're going to choose whether to advertise based on if the content is good. And there's a whole series of things that happen, right, in a TV show, right? So with this concept we're talking about here, let me see how I'm losing my train of thought here.
Originally we're talking about
the algorithm.
Algorithm.
So the algorithm is deciding. Okay, so what the Facebook algorithm that everybody is right now kind of punching at, like using it as a piñata. The algorithm is doing what I'm talking about here. So the algorithm is deciding what content is charismatic and good. So basically, the way they decided that was based on interaction. So Facebook had to make a decision about how to make a software that would recreate all this stuff I'm talking about. So the film crew, they had this. They had to guess. They had to know what was charismatic and decide if you were good on TV, if this was good content, if this was a good shot. They had to decide, and then sometimes they were wrong, right? And they would make a show and then it wouldn't work, and they would get fired, right? They would never get hired again. Not fired because you're not really even hired. You're just doing a shot, right? And then nobody would use them again, right? So they were this was the kind of stilted way of television. You had to trust that crew, and some crews were much better at it than others, knowing what would be interesting to the viewer. Well, with algorithm, now they have a better situation because they can actually see all the data of what people actually click on. So those middlemen are no longer necessary. You don't need those.
Well, there's one little difference though from what you just described. So at the one level, they were making the decision at the creating the content end.
Yeah.
But now at the Facebook level, now it allowed, because now you weren't limited to time due to the medium. The medium before was TV, where it's like you have a time slot, so they have to fit it. Whereas now online, there is no time limits, and you can have millions of different things available simultaneously.
And they all fight it out.
Yeah, so and they all fight it out. So now you can have lots of garbage content that's just random, but now the Facebook algorithm is able to then notice which ones are the ones that get the most views, and they're like, oh, this one seems to be getting more views, or this video, they watch it all the way through till 30 minutes in, whereas this clip, they only watch the first 3 seconds and then click away. So obviously that's crap. So then let's play more of this one. And then they just keep, and it's so efficient and automatic that it can process, millions and billions of videos very quickly.
Right. So what it is doing in the end is it's presenting to you as the user, presenting the stuff that is the most, the stuff that you interact with, that you're interested in, or, it's the stuff that you are involved in. It's not the stuff you're ignoring, right? So that's what the Facebook algorithm does. But of course, it's not perfect, because life is not perfect, right? And also, there's many problems with the algorithm. You could just name millions of them. But like for me, my thing is if I get bored of what the algorithm presents to me, because it presents too much of the same stuff, and I have such a wide variety of interest. I want to read the left-wing view. I want to see what is being said. So it's the algorithm. That's why I have to have another browser where I'm logged out in order to get what is the news that they're presenting to other people, not me, right? So I have my way of getting around it. But the algorithm, it's doing the job that is very important, because you as a user do not want boring content, right? You want the most interesting stuff, right? So what Facebook is doing, and what people are trying to limit, Facebook, and this is just, of course, these are all generalizations. Nothing is completely true that I'm saying. There's so many concepts I'm going to present, but what they're doing is basically giving you what you want. They're giving you what you want, and that's why they're so popular. They're so successful. They give you what you want. You want to be angry. You want to be upset. You want to be motivated. These are the things that it's giving you, and it's allowing. All Facebook is really, in many ways, it's just it's a window into the soul of humanity, right? And essentially, and so we are blaming Facebook for ourselves,
It's magnifying all the best and the worst of humanity.
No, it's not. I don't know if it's magnifying. I mean, maybe it is, maybe not. It is presenting. It is. So let me give you an example. So this whistleblower. So right now, there's this whistleblower, and she has done what a lot of recent, I can't think of the name, Edward Snowden, all these people, they stole like tons of internal documents and they presented them. Right. And so her testimony is fair enough. I mean, I have nothing against her. I think she's kind of an essential character in this story. We needed somebody to start the fire of the discussion, because definitely the power of Facebook is incredible. It's more than the TV shows used to have. Yeah. Because it's the one place you go to now. Like, you used to watch a lot of TV shows. So they all had a lot of power, but you watched a lot of channels, right? Now, when you're getting 60% of the users on one channel, it's really an incredible amount of power. And the reason why people don't understand the power of media, and I would say you don't understand the power of the media, is because you don't understand how easy it is to influence you. We all think, as individuals, we think we are, especially as red pill guys, we think that we are above that. And one of my main messages is that we are not. I really want you to know that you are not. You are a human being. And your mind is not a computer. It is not a computer. It is not infallible. And we are influenced by things all the time beyond our comprehension. And those understanding how your brain works and your own weakness is essential in getting control of your life. It's very important to understand that you are vulnerable to ideas and concepts. It's super important. And for me, as a content producer, right, I am very aware that what I say influences people. And I don't want to send people down the wrong road for the sake of some benefit. I really am very, very, very concerned about that. Because at the heart, I'm a protector person. That's my personality. My brother, I would protect him, from fights. If somebody was being bullied, I would protect. I would get in a fight to protect somebody in school. I was very much a protector personality. And I think that's kind of what saved me from going down the road of being more predatory, is I used my masculinity, my testosterone in that role. And that was always my personality, always. And I can tell you a story. I have some pretty vivid examples of that. But for this one, so Facebook now is being attacked for, and Instagram, because that's also Facebook, right? Mm-hmm. It's being attacked for essentially allowing humanity to be humanity, kind of, Mm-hmm. So you have to separate. I'm not saying Facebook is without fault or should not be scrutinized or even should not be, there should not be laws that limited it. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that a lot of what we don't like to see is the negative in humanity, in ourselves, right? And that's what Facebook is, a way that you're sharing your ideas. And then a bunch of people get together, and sometimes those ideas are not very nice and not very, and then we're blaming Facebook. We're posting things on Facebook, and, these are not being made by computers. They're people, right? They're us. So let me give an example. So right now, one of the things I see is there's an article here. Let's see, where is it? About on the Wall Street Journal, which I'll post below, or maybe we can edit this on. So Facebook knows Instagram is toxic for teen girls, company documents show. Now, this is a very interesting article. This is what got me thinking. And I recorded this many times until I fully got the concept. So now I think I could fully present my idea. But basically, Facebook, quote unquote, knew that it was, quote unquote, toxic for teen girls. I want to just analyze that first. Facebook knew, okay? Facebook knew. Does Facebook, do they know, they have data of what we do online, right? They're not creating the content. That's the whole thing about social media, is before, when you made a blog, you had to write the content yourself. And I owned a lot of blogs in the past. In 1999, I had blogs. And I wrote the content. And then I remember thinking, when social media came out, I thought, these motherfuckers, they don't do the content. It's so easy for them. Because I was spending all this energy writing things and on Ronin, making it, I do so much energy in creating the content. Facebook is just a blank slate for people to write their own content. So it's a beautiful business model for them. Because they're not really having to do anything, right? But so they knew it was toxic, okay, quote unquote toxic. Whenever you hear toxic or hate, I think really red flags should come up. Because if something is illegal, they will say that. You know what I mean? Something is illegal. It's illegal to do this behavior or that behavior, right? Whenever you hear the word toxic, what I hear now is it's not illegal, but somebody doesn't like it, right? That's what I hear. It's toxic.
Somebody doesn't like it.
It's not illegal. So that's what the difficulty. In the past, things had to be illegal before you could stop them. That was how things were decided. So in the past, when I was a kid, they would always say, let's say you were doing something, and they would say, no, what he's doing is legal. And then everybody just accepted that was it. It was fine. It was legal or not legal. And then along the way, in the social whatever, in our world, it has become where groups don't like stuff, but they can't stop it because it's not illegal. So they call it toxic.
I mean, it's like they're like, it's not illegal, so they need to do something to shame, like shaming language. Toxic. This is.
They need to somehow.
You should be ashamed of yourself that you're doing this.
However they're doing it, they're trying to stop it, but they can't stop it with traditional tools. So they're using new tools. So the word toxic and then also hate. So hate and toxic are ways to stop things that they can't stop because they're not illegal. They're legal, right? So. And it's just ideas that they don't like. And also, I would say also, I even heard at the summit, like people use the word toxic now. It's a common word. It's not just one side of anything is using it. People are using that. People will say it about themselves. Oh, that's toxic for me or whatever. If people are just using this term now. Just listen. Listen to your friends.
And then the term misinformation has suddenly become such a popular word. And I'm like, why don't they just say lies?
Right.
I'm like, so instead of saying lies, they use misinformation. So I was like, actually, it occurred to me that misinformation doesn't actually mean lies. It's kind of like what you said. It's information that someone doesn't like.
Right.
So they call it misinformation, and they skew it into making you kind of think it's a lie, but often it's actually a fact or a truth or just an opinion. That someone doesn't like. They're like, that's an inconvenient fact or that's an inconvenient opinion.
Well, that's the interesting thing.
And so it's misinformation.
That's about this document, about this debate right now, is that we were watching this Cold Fusion video talking about this. And when they talked about hate speech, was interesting. When you make a video, you have to choose, like I said before, what you're going to present. You're saying words, so you're saying hate speech, and then you're presenting images that support your idea or that show what the idea actually is in real life. So when they talked about hate speech, they first showed Duterte, the president of the Philippines, and then they showed Trump in the next one, and then they showed some other guy. I think it was a conservative French, I believe. I didn't watch that closely, but it was similar, like Duterte, Trump, and then this other guy. It was kind of the same thinking. It was like the same kind of out of fashion type of. There was a certain message there. There was a certain message that Cold Fusion was doing. Now this was not this was just Cold Fusion video. So, and another thing to realize about video is you have video editors, right? And they have a lot of control because they're like doing the job of actually putting the things together. And so the choice of those three examples probably were the editor behind it, but they might have been just a video guy or girl. It's like media is so funny. Like they're so busy. They're like, make a video, put things to this, and then the guy chooses, he chooses Duterte, Trump, and the other guy. And then the editor is like, okay, fine. Or the editor might say, no, change this. We don't want that image. We want another image. And then he puts another image in, right? So sometimes it just sneaks through because of one person in video, in media. And other times it's like the editor actually saying that they have a I can't think of the word. There's a word for it. There's a media word for what is the story they're trying to tell. So let me go back to my friend Bill. Okay, so here I am. We're at the Beijing Olympics, and Bill's like, "Let's go shoot this." And I said, "Well," but I wanted to know what he was trying to shoot because every time he told me a concept about China, it was always wrong. I was always like, "Bill, no, that's not what we want to do. Here's what's going on in China, so let's present it this way." And Bill was like, "Basically, shut up." He said, "Basically, I don't care if it's true or not. The editor is asking me to write a story about this, and here's what he wants. Here's what the editor wants, right? And I have to produce a story. And that the reason why the editor wants that story is because the advertisers have a certain mindset on the show, right?
You're talking about like talking points or something like that.
Whatever. There's the advertisers have an opinion about things, and the thing is, media is a business. That's what people don't realize. It's not a truth telling. It's not the Bible. It's not Moses. It's a business. So the people that are funding it, okay, like people that pay for things, they influence you, right? They are funding things, and you're molding yourself to them, right? It's just the way it is. It's the way it is. Whoever pays the bills, other people are, within their own moral boundaries, supporting that, So that's kind of the way it works, at church. I used to go to church in high school, and there was a guy, and he would just drop a $10,000 check into the collection plate once in a while. And the youth minister told us, who it was. And so we all were really nice to him. We just naturally were. Everybody knew his name. And you weren't supposed to know, supposedly, that somebody dropped more money, but this was $10,000, Wow, yeah. And he would drop it like pretty often, right? And so we all knew his name and everything because he was footing the bill, right? So these things, they just naturally happen. It's not the Illuminati. It's just the way things work. If your roommate pays more money, you have to make sure they're happy, right? It's just the way it is. In the old days, the man, the husband, he earned the money, and the wife was, making him happy, right? As it's changed, I think that's one of the big dynamics. Is no longer is the guy bringing the money, so there's not that same sense in the marriage there used to be, And so I think the money is a big aspect of why things are changing. It's really one of the key, not social justice warriors. It's just money. It's just who pays the bills, and it changes everything. So anyway, Bill told me the story, and I said, Bill, that's dumb. And he said, no. He said, I have proof, Paul. He goes, that they're protesting today because they're going to tear down their houses. And I go, Bill, I said, listen, I said, those guys, one, they're not protesting. And two, they're happy their houses are getting torn down. And he's like, that's mad. That's crazy. That's crazy. I said, look, the reason why I know this is because where is it? And it was in right near Tiananmen Square. So it was right in the center of Beijing. So just to kind of background why I thought that is because there are people protesting in China and even getting killed by local officials in small provincial towns. But the closer you get to downtown, the less corruption there is. Okay, the more you go out to the countryside, the more, the emperor is far away. Yeah, that's one of the sayings, Mm-hmm. And so more shit goes down. Mm-hmm. When your dad is right there, everybody's in line.
Yeah.
But the farther he gets away, the more you're pulling some shit, Right. And then he comes home from work and he beats your ass, right? He's like, you thought you'd get away with it. I wasn't here. I'm here, So that's kind of the way China is. So I knew that because this was super central land. So I know the way the Chinese government was buying land at the time because I was doing real estate. And they were paying double or triple price for land. So you would have a piece of land that was worth a certain price, and you would get triple that. And you
from the government.
From the government. They would buy the land. Yeah, and then you would get paid, or whether state-owned real estate companies backed by the government, whatever. You would get paid triple for that type of land that they would, because he told me where it was. I'm like, those guys are getting paid well. They're going to be happy.
Oh, that's why they're happy they're getting torn down.
That's right.
They're going to get bought out for triple.
They're going to get paid triple, and they're going to have a new place. So anyway, I told Bill that. Bill's like, that's crazy. That's crazy. He goes, that's. He almost didn't want to take me as a translator because, one, I think he knew I was right because even though he couldn't understand it, I was always right about stuff about China before that.
I think maybe the thing he said
so it pissed him off.
Fit the narrative.
That was part of it, but also Bill didn't like the fact that I was always right about China, so because he didn't know much. He was this, everybody's got their quirks, right? As a reporter, one of his things is he was kind of like the feel good reporter, and he was like, that there was that's the way it is, that guy. I forget his name, but the guy's that's the way it is. Yeah, one of those guys. Bill had his own show that was kind of like that, and he liked to be able to tell you the narrative of things. And that was his kind of feel-good show, But part of it was that he knew, And when it came to China, he didn't know, and I knew. And so I think that bothered him a little, you know what I mean? A little bit, it bothered him. Because it's like, damn it, I want to know, And I understand that, that was his, But he was, he can't know everything, right? I was trying to help his show be better. I was like, let's get the real deal here, and your show's going to kick ass, Bill. That was my opinion. I was not trying to get my opinion. I was trying to present Chinese opinion so that he could present it accurately and have the one show that was like spot on with the way China was. That was my goal. As I am with Ronin Man, I'm like a truth teller. I want to know. I wanted to tell him the truth about China so that he could present it and kick ass. That was kind of my goal.
So you were noticing that their goal was not accuracy. It was like they just wanted to tell a story that they wanted to tell, whether there was action. They just wanted to find images to match the story that they wanted to tell, even if what they were shooting
maybe that was the end result.
True.
But I just had been interviewed enough that I knew on his shows that I knew that it was not hitting the right notes. I wanted to hit the right notes. That's basically. Mm-hmm. And I felt like they were not hitting the right notes. So anyway, I told him that. And then he's like, oh, he couldn't get another interview, a translator. So he's like, okay, come on, let's go. So we went down there. And we went down to this guy who owned a little shop. And it was a Chinese opera house, basically. But it wasn't like a what do you call it? Stadium or whatever. It was more like a training facility for Chinese opera. And so we went there, and the guy was super interesting. As soon as we got there, it's like, this guy's perfect for TV, right? He started singing. He had a personality. His place was full of like puppets and things, and his family had like a very, very long history of doing Chinese opera. And he was like so charismatic. He was perfect, right? So anyway, so we get down there, and he was like talking, and then the whole place is lit up, and Bill was great on camera too. So they were doing it, and I was, translating it. And so then everything was going great when he was talking about, because Bill was saying, so what are you doing here? What is your thing? And he said, oh, we have a 400-year history of, my family, and we've been here for 400 years or whatever it was, a long, long time in this one location. And obviously the place was old, it was like this, it was old Chinese stuff everywhere. The whole place was just dripping with history, right? Cultural history. And he was putting on costumes and everything. It was great. And so then I said, but I knew the answer. I said, so I heard that people are protesting, in this area. And he just looked confused. He was like, he didn't really say anything. And then I was like, and then Bill was kind of like, okay, did you translate it? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay. So then he's like, well, ask him what he thinks about that. And I said, what do you think about, they're going to tear down your place here, it's 400 years old and whatever, and what do you think about that? And he looks at me, he goes, it's great. He goes, it's great. I tell Bill, Bill's like frowning, he's pissed off. And then he goes, and I go, so why is that? And he goes, look at this place. It's a dump. He goes, this is rat infested place. I'm going to have a new place. I'm going to have a view. He goes, we're going to get the hell out of this shithole, in Chinese. And I was just cracking up because it was exactly what I was thinking, right? Yeah. And so then Bill was
like, pay triple.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, we're going to be rich, We're going to have money. That's kind of like his attitude, Like the exact opposite of what Bill wanted to, because he was historical and he was like artistic, but he was like, they wanted money, like everybody does, and he was like super honest, right? And so of course Bill didn't like it, and then Bill was like frowning and stuff, and he goes, I'm not going to do this. So he goes, you told him to say that. He goes, and I'm like, Bill, I'm like interviewing the guy, right? I'm just like trying to get to the heart of the matter. And Bill was like super pissed off. And so then later I saw the article that he wrote, and he actually wrote it the way he wrote it exactly the way he would told me he was going to do it. He said the guy was angry, and he was like, there was unrest, and everybody was upset that these things were going to get torn down because Americans wanted to believe that everybody hates the government and that everybody was pissed off about their houses getting torn down because Americans would be pissed off, right? They didn't want to hear the true story of China.
Well, it was like they were projecting what they believed that how they would react. They weren't interested in how
you as a listener, not they, we didn't want to know. We didn't have time to know the true story. We just want a bite of that enforces our belief that things in China are fucked up and that the government's hated. And I'm not saying that. I mean, you guys know me. I went to Tiananmen Square to fight in the massacre. I mean, I was very and I still am very anti a lot of things the government does, but the thing is that the governments are huge and they do a lot of different stuff. You can't, there's no broad brush to paint some things. There's things that people do that are good, and that's what makes life fucking complicated, is that things are not black and white. Every single fucking issue is not like, you're a good person, he's a bad person, he's a bad person. It's like, that's the difficulty people have, is that we all have stuff in ourselves that we don't like, that is not beautiful and is ugly, and we have to work on that, and other people have their things. That's what everybody wants to do. They want to think it in simple terms. I'm a good person at heart. I'm an old soul, and they're not old souls. They're like new souls or something, and there's all this bullshit. It's like just a way to give yourself a hand job. It's like the way that you mature as a man is by seeing the darkness in yourself and seeing the mistakes and being able to really learn the lessons you need to learn in order to go to the next level and in order to mature where you have a broader perspective on yourself and the world and to improve yourself, right? That's the journey we have to take. It's not the blinders journey. Most people have blinders on and they plow forward. Our group is right. We are right. They are wrong. And that is so. That's whatever people want to do. And it's like, to me, this is just foolishness. And that's why I don't agree with a lot of the channels, is because I don't choose that. I don't hand people an easy narrative that everybody gets on the bandwagon and like, okay, let's do it. And I'm the leader of this idea and we're right. It's like, this is what leads to, if you look in history, all of the kind of terrible things that happen in the world. It's this feeling, we're right, they're wrong.
Yeah,
we're justified, they're not.
Yeah, I remember reading about the different stages of human development, and I think that is kind of more of like an adolescent type stage where it's in-group, out-group thinking is a very kind of an adolescent level stage. And so most of society is kind of stuck at an adolescent human developmental level where it's very much my group versus that group. But then as you grow and mature past that stage, that's when you start to integrate and see, from a much broader point of view and seeing like, wow, everybody is like a culmination of both good and bad. Yeah. And there is no such thing as all bad, all right.
Well, the sugar here for you and why this direction is good is that true change happens when you have something to offer life, right? And by knowing more, by accepting yourself, by working on yourself, by being honest with yourself, you become a person that people can't put you in a box. They can't, your ideas they're just better because you've worked on it. You know what I mean? You've perfected yourself. The steel has been totally, the Japanese swords, they're 18 layers of thin, like foil, like things pounded together in the heat under enormous, it's this enormous amount of work to do that. Like the German knives are just like one piece of steel sharpened. Mm-hmm. The Japanese steel is like 18 pieces, like pounded together and sharpened into like this perfect, there's a lot more work that goes into a Japanese sword than a German knife, or a Japanese knife. That's why Japanese knives are superior. There's a lot more work and effort and blood, sweat, and tears have gone into that, right? When you work on yourself at that level, you become like a knife because you can't, like, when you don't, you're just a sitting duck and you have to like kind of join into debates and then back out because you have a lot of weak points that you can't see, blind spots, and also you haven't fully thought out your ideas and you haven't admitted to yourself. So when you run into a debate or something, you can just throw out a few ideas and then run away, right? I want to be a man who can wade into any debate, my whole body, almost like that one night when we were here, like totally go in myself. And I have no fear because although I might see something I hadn't seen before in myself, I might find a weakness that I hadn't found. It's not like I'm always looking to sharpen the knife more, to perfect my own. It's not about this one debate. It's not about winning the debate. I'm going into the debate with the attitude of, like, when I used to debate, when I was on a debating team, I never lost a debate, actually, because the debaters were not that good. I mean, my competition was not that good. But one of the things I said, which always, like, threw everybody off, and I didn't realize the brilliance of it at the time, but now I can see it. It's like, wow, that was a great idea. I used to go into debate, and I would say, wait a second, I just want to say, because when we did our presentation, before the debate, you kind of like present, what you're going to present. I would say, look, I'm not here to win this debate. Like, I'd be happy to lose this debate today. My whole point is to figure this whole concept out better. I hope that my ideas are well thought out. I hope I can present, I hope I've thought through this well enough that I can present the idea, but I'm very happy to be wrong and for the other side to win, because in the end, I really want to end this debate with a new concept, a new understanding of the idea. And then that would blow people away, because everybody was like, no, they're wrong, our idea is this way. And they would present their speech like with very obviously biased, protected ideas. And I totally went in with this idea of, I'm going to figure it out. And then I remember it would just dumbfound the other side. Because I'd be like, no. I'd be pointing at the other guy on the other side. I'd be like, he's right. He's totally right about that. And my side would be like, shut the fuck, I'd be like, no, that idea is totally right. And then somebody else would say something, and I'd say, no, that part's wrong. Because that doesn't, and so I was actually kind of like figuring out the idea in the middle of this whole chaos, right? And so that was a far superior debating tactic than trying to present my idea. And everybody watching would totally be like, yeah, that's why you go to a debate. Americans didn't understand what a debate was. You're not going to a debate to hear two people argue a side. The point of a debate was to find the fucking truth. That's why everybody was sitting there listening. People went to a debate so they could learn something. It wasn't an ego thing, and it wasn't who is better informed. It was more like it's like a desire to find something out. It was a curiosity for ideas, and that was a powerful in debating. That was just super powerful. And I was like, I didn't understand it myself. We just destroyed the other teams every time. And I would even destroy my own guys. I'd say, you're wrong. Are they like totally wrong? That's totally wrong. That's exactly what he was doing. And the other side, and then people would be like, wait, what the fuck? But it would be true, right? So it would be like, oh, that's true. And then slowly, like, my team would realize that it was good what I was doing, because we would like destroy other teams. Like, it wasn't just win. Like
they were getting confused.
The other team would just totally lose it, because they weren't trying to find the truth.
They're trying to just win and make you wrong.
Yeah, they were just trying to and that is just such a dumb way to live life. There's no juice there. There's no juice for me.
Do you think do you think most people in life are actually operate from that mentality?
I don't know.
It's about I just got to be right, and I got to make the other side wrong.
I can't say most. But it's boring, as I will say.
It's boring.
It's very boring. Yeah, it's very boring. So let's go back to Facebook. So I want to talk about this Wall Street Journal article here. Facebook knows Instagram's toxic for teen girls. Okay, so in this article, which unfortunately I can't read right now because it's behind a paywall, which is really funny because I actually have I have the password. My parents have it because I have a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. So I should fucking have it, but I don't have the password right now. So anyway, because I signed up for my parents, the Wall Street Journal, when I was in college, back in like 1987, and they've been getting it ever since under my name, because I got a special deal as a college student. And so their subscription is under my name, right? So anyway, I should have the fucking password. I've been a subscriber, for like 30, 40 years, something like that. So anyway, this article, I'll just give you the I don't know if you can see it. It's one of these articles that if you open it once, you can see it, and the second time you can't see it if you refresh the page. So anyway, I'll give you a couple of the points there. Is 1 in 3 girls, and this is what I really want you to know about Facebook debate. I think it's totally depressing, actually, what's being presented to you. So here's what it is. Again, Facebook is a blank slate for you to post things. Okay, at the end of the day, they don't write content, right? You write content. and it goes on Facebook. Right? Facebook is not writing editorials. Keep that in mind. They are choosing, but again, like the algorithm, like the TV crews used to do, they're choosing it based on what they think you will notice at the end of the day. They are a social media company trying to get views, trying to beat other social media companies. Now, of course, if you have let's say you have a left-wing or a right-wing guy owning a company, that will influence some things. So that's another issue. So I'm not saying that's not real. That's very real. But the overwhelming thing is people are writing stuff, and it's getting chosen based on if it's getting interaction, if it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
That's the overwhelming thing here. Like the you have priorities of things, right? The number one thing is this, and this is what. So let's get into this with teen girls. So 1 in 3 teen girls felt that Instagram made them. This is one of the secret documents that was presented. Okay, and I want to analyze it because nobody is analyzing this, and this is like so important. 1 in 3 teen girls felt that Instagram made them, quote unquote, more depressed about their own bodies. Okay, so let's just look at this logically. 1 in 3 teen girls felt more depressed. So the first thing is these girls were depressed already.
Yeah.
Because more depressed, it's just like angry and more angry. You know what I mean? It's like more.
They were
angrier,
yeah.
right? They already are depressed.
It was a pre-existing condition.
Yes, about their bodies. And then, okay, so let's go. 13% of teen girls said that Instagram made their suicidal thoughts worse.
Again, there was already pre-existing suicidal thoughts based on that statement.
Right. Okay. So basically, what they're saying in the debate right now about Facebook, and this is one of the key aspects that no one, what they'll try to do right now in the debate about Facebook, they will present ideas that, as people always do when they're arguing stuff, they present ideas that were comfortable to you, but behind it is the driving force, right? One of the driving forces behind this whole anti-Facebook thing is this stuff about teen girls. So they'll talk about a regime change in Uganda or something, right? But the truth is nobody really gives a shit, really. You know what I mean? Like that's not really what's driving this debate. Think about it. What's driving this debate is more emotional things. This is an American debate, okay, with the American Congress. So I believe, and you might think that Ugandan regime change might be more important. I believe, after looking at all the articles, and I just see a pattern, the number one thing driving this debate is teen girls, in my opinion. And not just teen girls, but I actually read everything I could, and I watched every document. I've done a lot of research. I even recorded this whole thing, and I threw it away because it wasn't right, And I believe that the clear driver behind this whole thing is the effect on teen girls. And I think teen girls are important, just like teen boys are important. People are important, right? So, but I want to also, because it's important, I want to analyze it honestly and deeply, right? So let's look at it. So here's what they're saying. It's sad to think how many teen lives were lost, okay? Now again, we want to go back to the suicidal thoughts of teen girls. Okay, the documents do not show a connection to suicide itself. Okay, there is no document showing that Facebook, as of now, maybe there will be later after this podcast, somebody will research it and find out that there was a connection. I don't know. But right now, they are interviewing teen girls who have suicidal, quote unquote, thoughts. Okay, now that's an important thing because it's something we're going to talk about later. But the next thing is, but they're jumping from suicidal thoughts of teen girls, okay, 13%, who already have suicidal thoughts that are worse, right? And also, 1 in 3 teen girls, 33% of teen girls, felt Instagram made them, quote unquote, more depressed. But it's very important why about their bodies. Okay, so let's look at this. So here's what the logic that is the problem here is not the teen girls are not important. The teen girls are very important. They have human lives. The whole thing. It's a tragedy when people are when people obviously suicide is the ultimate tragedy. You spend all this energy, society, training, teaching people and raising people. And then that's why war is such a loss. All these young men who have so much to live for and they're just dying, they're gone. Of course it's important, but here we go. They're jumping from a concept of suicidal thoughts in teen girls, key thing. Okay. It's sad to think how many teen lives were lost. They're jumping to this. There is no data right now that I've read that lives were actually lost. But of course, you would think suicidal thoughts would lead to suicide. So, and people that haven't thought about this before would assume there is a connection, right? But let's analyze that. So it's sad to think how many teen lives due to Facebook company policies. Okay, so there's first thing is they're jumping from suicidal thoughts becoming worse that already existed, right? To lives lost, which hasn't been proven yet, to Facebook company policies. So they're connecting a lot of things here. So you have to watch these things. This is where the devil's in the details, right? And then even though no stats on suicide were revealed, it's well known that women think, okay, so here's...
So it's like they jump to the conclusion. They basically put the idea in your head that, hey, teens' lives were lost, but there's no actual evidence for that. But they already put the idea in your head.
But let's go here.
Yeah.
The reason why they do that, why the many articles, is because, again, back to Bill Marcus, back to reporters. They're getting paid a few bucks to write an article. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you see an article written, say in the Wall Street Journal, it's not like a company. You don't work for the Wall Street Journal. You are a reporter. Your story gets chosen. You're writing stories for all kinds of. Bill would write for all kinds of things. He wrote for Market Watch. He wrote for Fox News. He wrote for he did stories and they would be on NPR. You have to understand that these guys it's not like a company. Like you work for IBM and you're an IBM man. Reporters are not like that. They're all like TaskRabbit. Mm-hmm. Right? There's the very few, the Katie Courics who are on TV, and they're on one show all the time. So TV is a bit different, but articles are different. Articles are it's a free-for-all. If you look at the names of reporters, you can follow the names of, once you find somebody who writes good stuff, you follow their name, and you'll see it all over the place. People will publish their stuff. Whoever wants to publish it, because they get paid, right? So they'll sell it to whoever wants to buy it, usually, right? So here we go. So the reason why a reporter would make that logical jump from suicidal thoughts mean that lives were lost and that mean that it's due to Facebook policies. Why would they make these jumps of logic? It's not that they are the Illuminati. It's not that they're trying to convince you of something. They're just regular fucking people, okay? And they have limited mind. They have limited background. I don't know how old this person is that wrote this, but maybe they're young. Maybe they don't have a full life experience behind them and they don't have the ability to think beyond, of course, suicidal thoughts are not good, right? That's obvious, right? And when they get worse, that's not good, right? I'm not saying it's good. But I'm saying what is the reality of what that means in real life? Most people you wouldn't know. Most people don't know, right? But I actually do know. I actually have done research on this. So one of the big differences in men and women in suicide, which is very, very interesting, is that men, okay, let me get over here. Where's this? How come this thing's not moving? Oh, there it is. Okay. So I don't know if you guys know, but men died of suicide in 2019. And this is like every year, basically. 3.63 times more than women. Okay. So men die a lot. And 69%, 70% of suicide deaths are white males in 2019. Okay, so men die of suicide a lot. I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but I will tell you this. Women attempt suicide a lot more than men. So women attempt suicide and don't die. And men die almost 4 times as much than women do. So why is that? It's because when a man commits suicide, and this is sad and this is not something to be proud of, they do it. So it goes down to the methods they use. So, for example, a guy might shoot himself in the head, okay? Or he might tie a rope to a bar and jump off a tree or out of a chair or something, right? He's going to make his attempts at suicide are irreversible. A woman will, I don't have the stats right here, but women do, I know for a fact, women commit suicide a lot more than men, or attempt suicide a lot more. They call suicide hotlines a lot more too. And and I'm not saying this is not, there is no glory in being good at, you know what I mean? This is very sad, but it's true. But it tells you the mindset of the person too. You know, women are crying for help more than men. Men, the stuff I've read is which made total sense to me, and I'll present it, is that they have decided, like, life isn't worth living, and they're going to end it.
Yeah, their intention is to end it, whereas the women's is like, I'm a call for attention.
I'm at the end of my rope. I don't know what to do. I need help. I can't solve this any other way. I'm beyond what I'm capable of, and I'm gonna do something erratic to kind of like somehow get some help. And men do this kind of thing too.
And usually women, it's like they'll take a bunch of pills.
Yeah, they'll take a bunch of pills.
They might like cut their wrists or something like that, which
exactly
has more like a slower effect, and there's more of an opportunity for someone to intervene.
Exactly,
to keep them. Whereas the guy is like, they does something that boom, it's done, and they're dead.
Also, women will tend to call people and tell them what they did. And again, this is not. I think it's it's not. I don't think the lesson is that men are logical and decisive. I think I personally think the conclusion is that men are despairing. You know what I mean? They don't see any answers. You know, they don't think that anybody is going to come help them. They don't think that there's any hope. Like, they actually don't believe things can get better. Like, this is it. This is what it is. And they don't have anybody. They don't have that support system. They don't believe somebody is going to help them. Like, they've analyzed it, and this is the way it is. It sucks, and it's always going to suck, and there is no hope. They are totally despairing, and they have given up, and they don't see any path out. Whereas the women think, maybe this can change. You know, that's why you would cry for help. Is because you think that maybe something can happen. Maybe there's some hope. You know, when a woman also feels that same way, she will do the same thing. When she's done, when she thinks that there is no hope, she will also, I believe, do what a man does in the sense of, you know, not tell anybody. She doesn't want to tell anybody because she doesn't want anybody to stop her. She's made a decision, and that's the way it is. You know what I mean? And so I think that this is one of the, I mean, to me, I've known about these statistics about suicide for many decades, and I've always felt like society is so cold to not talk about this, because this whole idea that men are somehow privileged it's just, suicide is the ultimate decider of things. You know what I mean? It's like, it is the bottom line. It's the most anti-life thing there is. You only do it when you just, not only is there's just no hope at all. There's no hope for anything to ever change. There's nothing positive. It is done. You know what I mean? It is fucking done. And this is how men feel. You know, and that this is what is creating the whole movement right now. I call it a movement because that word makes sense to me. So I'm sorry if you don't like the word. And if you don't want to use it, and I know people use it in other ways that make it, that hurt, you know, our group, whatever, that's fine too. I totally respect. I just use it as a practical way, because it's not just MGTOW. It's like men are coming together. Men are realizing things are not, men are protesting, both in the form of suicide and in the form of not joining society, because they won't be heard. You know, like, they can't even like have their voice heard. and they're killing themselves. This is the reality. This is what's driving all of us to come together, is that we can't change society. Like, it's too powerful. It won't listen to us. The family courts, you can just make false accusations, and they do. Every divorce is like full of false allegations. Like, every guy who's been through it, you can tell all about it. But it's presented in the media as if it's this rare thing that never happens. But it happened. Every guy I know that's gone through a tough battle, they'll tell you, like, I was accused of this, and that's not true, and I was, in a way, so nobody's listening to guys, and it's not like in the old days you had power as a man, but with police and governments against you, it's just like you can't even change your own life, not to mention society, And that's what's making people so frustrated with this situation. And that's why people are just walking away. They're just like, it really is a very intelligent movement we have. Because, there's a point where I'm a very good swimmer, right? I'm a very good swimmer. But there is a point in ocean power when I know that I cannot swim through that, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like a weakness. It's like there is a type of storm out there, like I told the story about the boat, when I grabbed onto the front of the boat and hit that storm. I realized at that moment that no matter how good a swimmer I am, there are waves in the middle of the ocean that are so powerful. They're like steel when they hit you, They're like incredible crushing power. And I never really understood that, because I had surfed and I had body surfed huge waves, So I thought I could do anything. But all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, there's Mother Nature that is at the same time as I can handle things that very few swimmers can handle. I realized, because I put myself against a true Southeast Asia, almost like typhoon in the middle of the ocean, I put myself against it. I realized, oh my gosh, there are things that are in the water can be way more powerful than me, where I don't even have a chance, right? And I think that's what men are realizing, is that it's not a giving up. It's just like realizing the powers against you are too strong. It's a fool's errand, right? To try to fight the ocean at that level, right? And it's a fool's errand when the police, when the courts, you can't, like in the old days, like for example, let's say in the 1800s, if somebody kidnapped your child, right? It would be another bad person, right? Mm-hmm. And then you could go and fight against that. But today, the courts kidnap your child. Mm. And you not only cannot do anything about it, but if you even if you even mention anything, you will be hammered in prison. You cannot say anything. You cannot be frustrated. You cannot be angry. You cannot have any feelings at all. You have to just give up on the most deepest bond that you can ever have. So there is it's a setup. It's a setup for you as a man, as a protector, right? It's a setup to destroy you, is what it is in the end. That's what the family courts are right now. And that's what a lot of things in society are. And that's why men are intelligently saying, I cannot win this battle. And I know that. Mm-hmm. And so the smartest thing to do is not to fight the battle, not to join in the battle, and to walk away. And I think our group of guys is going to have I personally really believe this. If we keep ourselves clean, if we keep ourselves pure in the truth, like I was saying, like facing yourself, that's why I feel my podcast is very important, because I do my best to do that. If we can do this as men, we will, maybe not in our lifetime, but in history, have a huge effect on people, because we're just like, we're not going to go crazy. We're not going to do that. But we see our limits, and we realize the evil that we're against. Right. And we're just like, okay. And it's very unlike us as men to not fight it. But I think it's important as a man, you have to know that you can't fight every battle. You can't fight every tiger. You can't fight every bear. You might be able to fight off one bear, who's attacking your tent with your family. But it's just like pure luck. You know, it's just like your wits against the bear in the moment. And you might one time beat and win that battle. But if you keep doing that, you're going to lose that battle. There's no doubt about it, against wild animals. It's just men in history have always protected their family against a snake, a bear, whatever, another tribe. But then they what people don't realize is they died, you know, doing that. But they had an effect. Percentage-wise, they protected their family this much more, 2% more, 5% more, 100% more. And that increased the survival of their genes, right? So us as protectors was like, you know, war heroes. We were dying to protect, right? Historically. So it wasn't like we went...
But then it was valued more then.
Well, I don't know if it was valued, but I mean, what I'm saying is it had an effect on the survival of your genes, which was what you wanted to do in the first place. You didn't know it logically. The man didn't know it, but he was making sure that there was a higher percentage his genes would carry on, you know. And that was what his goal was, not humanity. It was just like, we don't realize we're programmed by our genes, you know. Mm-hmm. There's a great book called The Selfish Gene, which is just a fantastic book. Everybody should read it. You know, The Selfish Gene. You can watch a lot of videos on YouTube about it. But that was the first time that I understood that my logical brain, my developed brain is not really what's driving me. It was much more primitive. It was the genes inside myself, you know. And I'm not saying you have to always give into it. And that's another thing, is understanding the power of your genes does not mean that you're a robot. It does not mean that you cannot choose to go against that. But it's the understanding that this is the driving force, and that, you know, you are not what you think you are. You know, you think you're so logical. You know, you have to go in and see yourself, and then only by that cleansing, by going through the tunnel of truth, right, and self-deprecation and honesty and destroying those blind spots, can you get to the point where you can overcome these things. It's the people that ignore those things, or that in an attempt to control them, are the ones that are trapped by them, right? You become more powerful by accepting your weaknesses and facing them, right? You become much more powerful as a man.
Right. It's like the more that the certain people believe that, I'd be able to operate just purely on my logic, are the ones that then they're totally blind that a lot of their logic is actually being used in service of their biology.
And how much they're being...
And they don't realize they're being used by... Their biology is using their logic and fooling them into thinking that they're being purely logical, when in reality...
Well, there's a million factors. It's not just that. That's just one of a billion factors. Like, we have things called mirror neurons.
Right.
So mirror neurons is the child, newborn child, looks up, sees the mother, and the mother does something, and then the baby copies it. Mm-hmm. It's just natural. The mother smiles, the baby smiles. The mother moves her hand, the baby moves her hand. The baby is mirroring the mother's expressions, actions, voice, eyes, everything is mirroring. We have natural mirror neurons. So right now,
including just the emotions, like not just the facial features,
everything,
but like internal emotions,
logic, everything.
All of that's getting mirrored.
You now are mirroring me, mm-hmm. and I am mirroring you. But your reflection is affecting this discussion, right? That's how humans work. That's why when I have a really good idea, a lot of times I don't want anybody there, because I don't want the idea to be changed in any way. Because I have the idea, I just want to get it. I'm not saying the idea is right, but I'm trying to get the idea out. So at least it's out, right? It's not influenced by another person.
Right.
So sometimes I want to collaborate to find the idea, right? To dig into the idea. And other times the idea is already here, and I want to throw it out. Not that it's right, but it's a concept that has not been presented, and I want to present the concept, and then to debate the concept, right? So if I put it on YouTube, I'm just, by nature of YouTube, I'm putting the idea up for debate, right? I'm putting the idea up for scrutiny, right? Whereas I might record something for only myself sometimes. I have a lot of recordings I make for myself. I make more recordings for myself than for Ronin Man, where I'm figuring out life for myself, not for anybody else. Mm-hmm. And it's my life. It's my own personal stuff, right? Very personal stuff I'm figuring out for myself, right? So anyway, so let's go back to the teens, right? So I think what I would caution in this whole debate is the first thing is that we're talking about teen girls and suicidal thoughts. Again, suicide is a tragedy. People do commit suicide. It's a very serious topic. People need to reach out for help. There is hope. It's just hope is not in your circular thinking, right? You know what I mean? Like that's why people commit suicide. They're in a circular thinking, right? A lot of it is just getting out of that circular thinking and seeing life from a broader perspective or seeing more things. Just allows you. Suicide is not a rational thing, right? It's not. There is a lot to life out there. People think they're so right, but they're actually wrong. There's much more out there. There's a lot of things they can experience and see that they're not seeing. They're so stuck in this one idea, like this is the one thing that defines them, right? So there is hope. It's just that the hope's not in their thinking. So they need to reach out, right? So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying any of this stuff is positive. But what I'm saying is the reality is that there is a big difference between the men and women commit suicide and think about suicide. And when you talk about teen girls, everybody knows this. They're very flighty. Thoughts are here. And we're talking about teen girls who are already suicidal. So that is not being recognized in this debate. They're presenting this a debate as if Facebook is making, Facebook policies are making girls commit suicide. I think this has to be proven to me before I will take that leap of logic. I want the truth about what's going on. I think the truth is closer to this. Okay, so let's go into my presumptions or my analysis of this situation. Again, this is a sticky topic, but a lot of people, they avoid sticky topics because they're like, oh, you can't talk about that. I think the more important a topic is, especially when we're talking about suicide, it is really important to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't talk about it, that's why people do it. They're not talking about it. I'm not talking about this thought guys. I'm talking about the doing guys. The reason why they're doing it is because they're not finding answers. They're not, you know what I mean? They're stuck in it. I think that the more important something is the opposite of what people I think. Everybody's like, oh, don't touch that. I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh yeah, you need to touch that one. You need to talk about that one. And I get emails like probably every 2 weeks. Some guy was going to commit suicide and he didn't because of Ronin, right? Mm-hmm. I read these emails, And so a lot of times I think that it has my ability to or willingness to face these difficult issues is what people are like, yes, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Let's not just like, don't be afraid. Like that, this is what people, you know what I mean? People are thinking about. They're like, wow, and then like, whoa, like this guy's not afraid of it. Like he's not like, it really is ignoring them than most people do out of fear. I'm not afraid. I helped a lot of people with drug and alcohol problems, and a lot of them were suicidal. So I've already been there 1,000,000 times, and I am not afraid. I am not afraid to wade into the most. I will help the person that no one can help in recovery. That's always been my role. No one else can help this person. I will go in, and like the guy's house is just destroyed. He's driven away everybody in the program because he's fucked them all over and borrowed money and screwed them over. And I come in, and I'll go in. And I will be the one guy, and this often happens to me, that is able to reach the guy, So I'm not afraid of that. In fact, I like that. That is kind of my role. I can help the unhelpable. That is one thing. I don't know if it was because of the way I was raised, being in an alcoholic family, or like having that around me, that kind of craziness, and like I don't know what it was. I don't know what it is about myself. There's a fearlessness where I'll just go in, because they could hurt me, right? Right. But they won't. They never will hurt me. Like I just walk right in, even if everybody's afraid of him. That guy's a total criminal, right? I'll just go right up to him, right? Mm-hmm. It's because I'm very, I don't know. Everybody's got their skills, right? This is one of my things, right? So let's talk about this. Okay, so another issue here that no one wants to talk about is and this is like crazy. It's crazy that they don't talk about this, okay? So Facebook is being blamed because teen girls, 1 in 3 teen girls, are quote unquote more depressed. Again, they're already depressed. What about what? And they try to portray it in many ways and all these words, but when you get down to it, the bottom line is, if you read all the articles and if you read those documents that she stole about their bodies, okay, so 1 in 3 American teen girls is quote unquote, Instagram makes them more depressed, not about their lives, about their bodies.
And what is Instagram?
Now,
it's about pictures.
Instagram is pictures, right? Instagram is pictures
of bodies,
right? So let's go here. I'm going to read some studies here. So first thing is, the average 20-year-old American female is 171 pounds with a 38.6-inch waist right now.
That's bigger than my waist, and I'm a big guy, and my waist is smaller than that. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, my waist is 31, right? So the average 32, 31. 33 is like huge for me. I can't wear 33. So depends on the brand, right? But 38.6 is the average American 20-year-old American female now, right? Okay. Obesity is skyrocketing every state. The number of obese states, when they say obese, it's more than 30% of the population, 33, more than a third. That's like doubled since the pandemic. Okay, it's like obesity is like on the rise everywhere, right? So when you see thin people, you don't have, as a single person, our brains don't have the ability to process, hundreds of millions of people that we can't see. So we just see our little world, and often it's based on what we want to see, right? Or where we live or something, some limitation, right? But the statistics here are accurate. It's 20-year-old female is 171 pounds. The average 20-year-old Japanese female is 110 pounds and has a 23.9-inch waist, right? So
radically different.
And also, the American population is less than 50% of any one type. There's a lot of Asians in America, right? So this statistic includes Asian Americans, Japanese Americans, Chinese, includes everything, right? So this is what people automatically say is the races, but actually America is a very integrated society. There's a lot of different people here.
So what that means is that there's actually quite a few women who are like 200 pounds and more.
Well, there's that,
like 45-inch waist,
and it's all races. It's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a racial thing. It's more of a cultural thing, right? But anyway, we have a serious obesity problem. And when you talk about 1 in 3 teen girls is more depressed, so let's face the facts here. These girls are not happy with their bodies. This 1/3 of women teen girls on Instagram, they're the more depressed means depressed. Depressed is not a word like unhappy. Depressed is a serious word. It's you know what I mean? You got to have a red flag when you heard the word depression. Depression is not like, oh, I got a traffic ticket, I'm depressed. No, it's more like a series of bad kind of experiences that create an outlook that is, it's a cumulative thing. It's an overall view on life. It's
a consistent state,
right?
Like this long arching consistent state of like, this thing is not changing, and I don't like it, and it's not changing. It's like I've been like this for years,
right?
It wasn't this momentary blip for a couple of months,
right?
It's like
I woke up this morning, I'm depressed.
They've been overweight for many years now.
Right.
And they have not been able to make any dent in improving it.
They tried a lot of things and they didn't work. And that made them feel worse. There's that kind of thing. Now, of course, teen girls are quite young. So a year is like, 100 years to a teen, right? It's like, or whatever, dog years or something, like years are different for teens. A week can be forever. A summer can be ages, right? Can totally make a girl very depressed, or a guy feel bad about himself or good about himself, but based on something. I know when I was in school, I had to do one thing and then the school would all hear about it. And then I would feel so confident after that, like something happened. I did something, scored some goal or won some contest or whatever. And I just felt like overnight, I just felt fantastic about myself, or terrible, depending. Really up and down teens are, right? So more depressed means they were very sad or depressed about their bodies. And I think that here's the thing. Here's the connection that they're trying to make here. The connection is they're trying to do, though, what I think society is trying to do is make you believe that women that are, and they did this in the article, actually in the Wall Street Journal article. They had pictures of girls that were skinny that were talking about being depressed about their bodies. Now, I thought that was really dishonest. I thought that choice of photographs was just so dishonest, because I'm not saying that some people don't have mental issues and mental health problems. Like, definitely, there are people who think they are skinny and they're fat, and there's other people who think they're fat and they're skinny. They're skinny and fat. It's just like some people don't see the world accurately. That's true. They have mental health problems. They think you hate them, but you love them. You know what I mean? Like, there are people with problems in the world, for sure. But no doubt about it, they're the exception. Most people, like, for example, if you gain weight, you're going to feel worse about your body the more weight you gain.
Right.
You gain 5 pounds, you're going to feel a certain amount. And then you're going to 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds. You're going to go through a series of things where you try to ignore it, might try to get drunk to not think about it, might be around other friends that are overweight to kind of like not think about it all the time. You're going to, it's tough, right? It's like, there's no doubt there's a connection between your weight and the way you feel about your body.
Right.
And as you get in shape, you feel better. You're like, oh, I'm doing it, right? And that's what they're never admitting, is that I care about teen girls, okay? And I would say, if somebody is depressed, it is very fair to her to tell the truth. It doesn't help somebody who's depressed, by definition, needs the truth if they want to get out of it. Because the more depressed you get very honest about things. And you realize people are lying to you. Talk to depressed people. Mm-hmm. And you say something like the sunny side of the street, and they'll say, fuck you. I know about that. That's not true. That person doesn't love me. And you're like, if you want to really help them, you have to be like, yeah.
Yeah, lying to them more is not what they want.
No, they get very honest. And you talk to an old, angry, young guy, right? He also will be like, you'll say, well, do it for your country. And he'll be like, country, blah, 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 blah. And he'll be like, totally, you don't get anywhere by saying, you have to believe the fantasy. Because the guy's like, look, I don't believe the fucking fantasy anymore. So if you want to reach that guy, the only way is by straight up honesty. You want to help somebody who's suicidal, you cannot be telling them Disney shit. Okay, let's put it that way. You got to go directly in and let them say how they think about it. And you got to take it seriously. You cannot, this is what other people don't do. They go in and try to make them feel good. I don't. When I go into somebody who's very, very either, in some despair and just, terrible state, I will listen to them. And I will go, yep. They did that. I did that before. Yep, you're right. We didn't understand. Yeah, we were wrong. Yeah. We thought you were like that. We were wrong. Yeah, we shouldn't have done that. I'll just say, oh, yeah. Oh, your dad? Oh, yeah. No, that was, yeah. No, that was, well, yeah, you're right. That was racist. That cop shouldn't have done that. I won't try to, I will totally hear them out. Mm-hmm. Because I know the only way that I can help them is by facing these dark things they're facing. They're not seeing things accurately. Okay, that's not a question. I'm not saying that they're right and I'm wrong. I'm saying that there are things that they see that they are upset about that are real. And you need to listen to those things. And you really need to have a lot of honesty about yourself. Because they will say it. They will say, well, you just have it because you have this. The guy might say something that's true. Just because you have this. And I'll be like, yeah, I do have that. And it does make it easier. You're right. Yeah, you're right. And you don't, and I understand that makes it harder.
It's interesting as you just described it. It sounds to me like you were kind of also that same strategy that you were just kind of doing automatically when you were doing the debates. Where you just acknowledge the other side. Yep, he's right. Instead of saying, oh, no, you're wrong. And trying to fight and argue against them.
Not only would I say they're right, but I would use that as a foundation for future arguments. Like I'm not just giving out dog bones.
Right.
I would say I'm looking for diamonds and putting them into my bag. So I'm like, oh, he's right. So I'll take his concept, put it in my bag. Like, this is a fundamental concept that I agree with. And then what other diamonds can we put in here, right? I'm not just like making him feel good. I'm actually saying, I don't even care about him. The idea is right. I'm taking the idea as like a diamond, putting it in the center of the debate, right? So that's what I'm doing. So with a depressed person, I am definitely looking for these things, and I'm like, yep, you're right, and then through that, I believe that life is good. There is a reason to live, and so I'm not worried about it, no matter how dark the things are telling me. I know that in the end, like, life does have a lot of dark things, and the only way you can be really, truly strong and optimistic is by facing the darkest things in life. I believe. I don't believe optimism is by ignoring the dark things. I believe, like a lot of things about what's happening in China. I know a lot of things that are happening. They're very, very dark. I mean, very, very, very fucking dark. About as dark as it gets. But by knowing those things and facing those things, I am a person who can handle reality. I can handle reality. I mean, I don't always want it every morning on my plate, but I reserve time for very dark reality in my world. I can hear about the most evil, terrible things. I can listen to that. And I don't always, like I said, I have to manage myself. There's a limit to how much I can take. And so you as a person too, you have to know how to manage. You're searching for truth. You're allowing yourself to see true darkness, right? But at the same time, you have to know that you have a breaking point and that you kind of can jump in there like a video game and play for a bit. Then you need to break away from it. It's not like I'm saying like you need to go into the darkness and be in there forever. No. You face it, you accept it, but you also know you have a whole life to live. And there's a lot of good things to see and do. And seeing reality doesn't mean you have to be overwhelmed by it, right?
Right, it's like digestion. You need to absorb so much of it, and then give yourself time to then integrate it to everything else. Kind of like figure out how does this fit with everything else.
You kind of went in and challenged yourself, and you're getting a break, digesting it, letting it process. Yeah. Getting yourself strong again, so you can take another blow. When I was chosen as a reporter in China for the earthquake in 2008. So in 2008 in Sichuan, there was a big earthquake. And it was kind of a man-made tragedy. There's a fantastic book called Tears of Sichuan. And I was there at that time, and I was working with some of those guys that made that movie. And I can tell you that it's a very accurate movie. But so we were sent down there just before the Olympics, and China was opening up, and they were like, for the first time, they welcomed foreign reporters, and they were like, China's going to open up, we're going to allow people in, and we went in there, and we were interviewing and everything. But then, of course, the sad part was that we found that it was all caused by corruption. There'd be like one building, like a police station that didn't even have a cracked window, and next door was a school that collapsed and killed all the students, because of corruption, because of a local government official taking money and not putting rebar. They called them tofu buildings, not putting rebar into the building. And so after that was kind of found out, then the Chinese government made a about face and kicked us out and didn't want any more. And they totally changed the narrative, started handing out tons of money, rebuilding the cities, trying to cover it up, right? But what I experienced there was I was there, and I thought I was, I have a lot of confidence in myself, right? So in being able to handle tough things, And so I went down there, but it was really tough on me. I got to tell you, like I could smell death everywhere, because the buildings had all collapsed, so you could smell rotting meat everywhere. So everywhere I was, you could smell dead people. Oh, because we were going to the heart of the thing, Dudanyan, all these different cities, right? And so I was in the middle of it, and I didn't realize that death and tragedy and fear, because earthquake aftershocks were happening, take a toll on you. I kind of just thought, like I was like the soldier who goes to war with the kind of like the confidence and bravery of country and everything. I was like going to this tragedy saying, I can handle this, But what happened was it kind of overwhelmed me at some point. There was one girl told me a story. I was just like, oh, I was just like, fuck, whew. And I couldn't understand at the time, but it was too much for me, at some point, because it was just like tragedy after tragedy. And it was the kids that got me. I was just like, oh, it was this girl told me this story. I was like, oh my God. So I learned from that though, because I remember when I flew back to Shanghai, I was like shell shocked, and I had never been like that before. But I realized that there was a limit to how much sadness, tragedy, stupidity, like
corruption,
lost opportunities. It wasn't that. It was corruption causes.
The corruption led to so much.
It was again, and also having to shut up about it and everything. It was just too, and knowing it was going to be covered. It was just too sad it was just all man. It was just so sad. It was just like, and also it was just like the people that died, just knowing like how it went down and everything. Like not even totally government society, just the way things happen in the school and everything, and I don't want to tell the story, but I learned that through that, what I learned was that I need to pace myself. I go in there, I find things, I need to take a break. You know what I mean? Ronin man needs a break. You know what I mean? I can hear people's tragedies. I'm the one person who can handle it, but I also I'm going away and I'm going to go do something fun. I need to go and like into the sunshine and totally forget about it. And that's what people don't understand sometimes at the summits is we'll have a very intense meeting. Mm-hmm. But then when we're done, like I want to think about something else. Like I do not want somebody following me around, just keep bringing up their tragedies of their life. It's like, no, or difficulties or whatever. Like I went in, we processed, we worked on it. And then I need like totally different mindset. In order for me to have the strength to go in there over and over, I need to get away. Right. I need to get away. I need my own time where
rejuvenate.
I'm just doing my thing. I'm cruising around, checking out the city, doing my thing. It's like I have my own thing that I'm doing, and that allows me to rebuild. Like your muscles. You take a break from the gym. You go to the gym. You don't stay in the gym and just keep lifting every day, all day. You're never going to have muscles. You'll get weak. The opposite will happen, right? Because you just never let your muscles rest. You need to rest. You need to sleep. So that's what I would say about this type of stuff is also while you're facing it, talking about pretty heavy stuff, you need to get away sometimes too. And I think also red pill stuff, you need to get away. You can't let yourself just be focused on this all the time. It's and of course my channel has a lot of optimistic, positive stuff too. So I'm not saying the channel, I'm just saying specific ideas that are very heavy. I believe the way to do it is like the gym. You go to the gym and then you leave the gym, right? So you go into these things, you're not afraid to face them, but at the same time, you don't overestimate that you can handle 15 hours or 15 days or 15 years of the same, you need to kind of, so anyway, so let's talk.
Well, I'm curious, just to add to that, do you see that some people who get trapped in this circular, depressed line of thinking they're kind of caught in that, what you were just describing?
No.
They're stuck in this where then they don't ever break out of it.
No, this is different because I'm going into somebody else's tragedy.
Okay.
So I'm not going into my tragedy. I might share my tragedy. I've already dealt with it. So when I might be emotional about it, but I've already dealt with it when I go to the summit. So it might bring up emotions in me for sure, but that doesn't mean that I'm like holding back and haven't dealt. I've already dealt with it.
Well, could you speak kind of your thoughts, the difference between your tragedy versus dealing with
what I'm saying is that when I go into China, I'm going into somebody else's. When you're dealing with your own stuff, you need to work on that first before. That's what I was saying. You have to be a man who's already he's dealt with his stuff, faced his stuff, and then you can go into the world. You need to work on yourself first, right? But, so what people do is they blame, they talk about everybody else, the SJWs, the media. They haven't worked on themselves yet. So they have nothing to say. I mean, there's no honesty there. It's just a bunch of like blaming, and they have their own blind spots all over the place. You need to work on yourself first so that you can be trusted to be a member of the debate about other people, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you already have to have worked on your stuff, and that's what people don't do. They're just like talking about other people. So with the person who is depressed and in that whirlpool, it's not about them getting out of it. They're in a whirlpool, right? Like, you know, I could be in a whirlpool about something, right? You're in a whirlpool, and it's not about getting out of it. That's just wishful thinking for them. They need somebody to go into it and to figure it out so they can get out of it. Like there's no avoiding it. This idea of getting out of it. No, it's only when it's someone else's tragedy I can go in and get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like my own tragedy, a lot of times I need to get all the way through it. It might take a couple months. You know, I'm willing to be down for a couple months to go through something. Now maybe other people would take a break. I don't. I'll face reality head on. Like, you know, it was my whole thing with my daughter, right? It was like I faced that thing the whole time. I did not run away from anything. You know, I did not run away from those feelings. I allowed myself to be in total despair because I was feeling, you know, terrible. I needed to feel those. I needed to face the biggest tragedy of my life on a day-by-day basis. Or there was no time for putting this off. I needed to go through it then and now. And I have enough faith in myself that I'm going to, just like the other night here, I'm going to come through it okay. Mm-hmm. Because I've seen myself come through things before. So I'm like, I'm going to go through this and come out the other side. So whereas other people, they think I'm not strong enough, I'm going to avoid it. I'm like, fuck it. Either I'm going to make it or not, but I'm going to go in. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to face it right fucking now. You know what I mean? So those are two different things, right? And about myself, yeah, I am willing to go deeper than other people, than most people I know, you know, because I really want better for myself, you know. And I'm not talking about money or anything. It's sharpening the knife of myself, you know. Right. I want to be the best of me that I can be. I want to experience life with the least amount of bullshit in myself, not media and facing on other people. Myself. You were the most important factor in your life, not the media, not Donald Trump, not anybody outside of you. You were the guy, really, at the end of the day, you need to work on. You can try to change these other people, but you might get lucky a couple times where you can help people. But it ain't something that's going to be a big thing in your life. You know, most people they're not looking for your help. You know, the person you can help is yourself. That's the person. And through that journey, you become a unique individual, a trusted person by other people. Because people see it. They'll see in you. They'll see that. Trust me. Yeah. People know. People know when you've done your work, when you're at peace. People know. They know. And people that are covering up and blind, they know. You know. We all know.
And they know that you don't fit in any nice box for them. And then also, like, as you just go through life, that you don't fit in people's nice, neat little boxes. They're like, you're not. And you start, as you just go through your life, the more you develop yourself, the more that you kind of blow up other people's boxes of what they believe is supposed to be.
Well, like I'll have like something where there'll be like, so let's say we're in a party or something and there's like girls debating guys about stuff. And the guys are saying girls are like this and the girls are like, we're like this. And then I'll say to the girls, I'll just look at them and say something, and they'll totally change when they're talking to me because they know that I know more, and they'll totally change their tone, and they'll be like, "Well, yeah, but," and I'll be like,
"Yeah, but,"
and I'll be like, and then but I have that same sense of honesty. I'm not telling them the way it is either. They'll sense I've gone through my stuff and I'm honest with myself, and so they'll be like, "Oh fuck, this guy's tough because he knows us and he knows himself." And they'll like totally change and we'll actually be talking about stuff, right? but then they'll still be the same way with those other guys. You know, it's because they sense they can't be the same with you, you know, or they'll get very frustrated because they'll be scared of you because they'll be like, wait, all of my talking points are just getting knocked down with truth. This guy, not going to debate this guy anymore. I'm going to save it for those other guys that get all upset, you know. And it's like, you know, like, so anyway, so let's go into the teen girls thing. So I just want to, because we're at 2 hours. So, okay. So the Center for Longitudinal Studies, CLS, did some research, and 1 in 5, 21% of young people were obese at age 17. Okay. And 1 in 7 were overweight. So 21% plus 14%. So obesity plus overweight. And that was further. So plus is what?
35%?
35%. So how many girls, teen girls?
1 in 3.
1 in 3. So
that's 35%.
35%, right?
Is 1 in 3.
33.3 is 1/3.
Yeah, it's basically
1 in 3. So 35% of girls, teen girls, are obese or overweight. And 1 in 3 teen girls feel more depressed about their bodies when they're on Instagram. So, you know, the answer here is what people don't want to hear. Is that what they want to say is that Facebook needs to do something about these girls' feelings. And while I respect, like I said, I respect people's feelings. I understand we are all driven by emotion, men and women. And then it's very important to respect that because that's how you get change, is by respecting that, by listening to that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but at the same time, there's another part of your brain that has to be honest about the facts, right? And I know for myself, if I start gaining weight, I'm not going to feel good about my body. Like it doesn't take a genius to understand that the way your body looks affects how you feel. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so simple. Look at yourself. Just look at yourself as you get older. You're not going to be happy about the changes. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be like, yes, now my knee hurts, you know. Yes, you know, you're going to be happy about your knee, you know, like, so the way that, I mean, I think that there are a few things happening. And this is one last tangent, but it's a very important one. Okay, so society has fully faced men's violent nature. Men do use violence to solve things traditionally. You know, fighting. This has been well documented. You know, the wars. I mean, men have a way of solving problems, and I think it's been looked at very skewed, but there is no doubt about it. Men have a certain way of acting and behaving, right? Mm-hmm. Solving things, right? Women, what has not been faced yet, and what I think this whole debate about, there's two things. One is society not being willing to face the fact that obesity and being overweight causes you to feel bad about your body. It's like hating the mirror. In the old days, before Instagram, women used to say, I hate the mirror and I hate the scale. And so women used to hide scales. I remember my girlfriend, when I was 14, her mother threw the scale away because she didn't want to see it. Because the scale would tell her, you know, she always said, is this broken?
The scale made me feel bad.
Yeah, the women used to throw scales away and break them. No, I'm serious.
No, it makes sense.
There was like a meme in the old days. They get a sledgehammer and women would break the scale outside their house. Yeah, there was a frustration with the reflection of their weight, right? And so what we're getting with Instagram is that it's a visual thing, right? So it's kind of like the mirror. The mirror and the scale is what Instagram is to women, to teen girls, is they're seeing their body and they don't like what they see. But there's something even more insidious, which I think is the real issue. So we've gone 2 hours to get to the real issue. But again, all these things add up to it. These are all important. And obesity and being overweight is one of the key things that they're ignoring. They're just making it look like they're depressed about nothing. Like, oh, just so happens that 1/3 of girls are depressed about their. It just so happens
that is a piece of software that's causing the girls to be depressed.
It just so happens that 1/3 of girls is overweight or obese. Oh, what a coincidence! I wonder if there's a connection between 1/3 being depressed about their bodies on Instagram, and 1/3 being overweight and obese. I wonder. Gosh, I wonder. Mm-hmm. But of course, in the article, they show a picture of a skinny girl, which I think is evil. I think there's a point when I use the word evil because there's no other word. This is so dead simple that it just makes me frustrated that anybody can do that, because it's not because it's because I actually give a fuck about the girls.
Right.
I actually don't. I want them to, the way that you solve problems by, just like when I go in and try to help someone, it's by listening to the truth and by debating it and talking about it, accepting myself and being super honest with myself. When you help somebody who's on the verge of suicide, you got to be super fucking honest with yourself, because they are reading you, any little lies you say, and they're going to do it. They are like hair trigger. You go in and it's hair trigger time. You got to be super honest with yourself. Trust me. There's no room. There's no room for bullshit. Mm-hmm. One bullshitting thing, and they might do it, and you're going to feel it. You're going to know. It's like, damn it. Trust me. It's scary, but it forces you to be very honest, and you have no fear, because you just have to be listening to them and honest with yourself, and then you have a chance of helping them, right? So with that same spirit, with the serious and somberness of suicide, I am telling the girls, I'm telling society, this is a mistake. It is a mistake to ignore the fact that, let's face it, these girls that are feeling bad, their bodies are not looking good. Mm-hmm. And that's why they feel bad. And by facing that, it's difficult to face, because again, we got to go back to the, how do you solve this problem, right? It's all these things that people don't want to talk about, and you have to discipline, and you like exercise. It's all these things that people want to say, oh, it's this kind of like big corporation, or it's these food companies, right? It comes down to us as people. We're making decisions, right? Right. But that's where change happens. Change happens in accepting reality. And I want to say that my theory is that this 1/3 is probably basically the same third and we have to face that, and stop promoting that this large and in charge thing is some kind of an empowering thing, when it's, young lives are being lost to this. And society's lack of ability to talk about it is not helping things. It's not these girls.
Especially I'm thinking these are teens, it makes me think that the real part of the big issue is parents that don't actually care about their kids as much as we have this notion that all parents care about their kids, but I'm starting to realize a lot of parents don't actually care about their kids that much, that they're actually just have kids because they're supposed to have kids, or have kids because they it's like, oh, just showing them off.
Yeah, or
they just pay for daycare centers and they just feed their kids complete garbage, and they don't actually care that the parents can see with their own eyes that their kids are getting overweight, and then the parents don't do anything about it.
Even worse. A lot of parents are in competition with their kids.
Oh,
so
and they're actually happy that they're like fat, because they're like, oh, at least like I still am like the better looking one, or they're not going to be hotter than me.
A lot of mothers, will see their daughters, and as they bloom as a young female, they will be jealous and want to destroy that, and so they are. No, and also to make it even sicker, some parents will deliberately sabotage their kid in order to hurt the other parent. So let's say that you were very healthy, mm-hmm. and you were ripped, right? And you want your kid to eat good food, and if you have a very, let's say, someone with a personality disorder who is hell-bent on hurting you, right? They will use the child as a tool without any empathy for the child in order to hurt you. And they kind of win by hurting, right? So by the kid feeding them bad food, they know it's going to make you angry and it's going to sabotage. Two birds in one stone, right? So you even have more evil going on with all the divorce courts and everything. So
the parents.
Two families.
You have two parents fighting each other, or in-laws.
Yes.
You got the one parents, and then you have the in-laws, and then one is trying to keep them healthy. Meanwhile, the other one is intentionally trying to make them
the other one knows the other one is trying to make them healthy, and would sabotage that. So there's all this kind of stuff that could happen, right? So, but let's just go. The bottom line is that everybody has responsibility for their body. So, that only goes with teens is one thing, but adults is another thing, right? You need to take responsibility. Face your weaknesses, right? Face them. Take your shirt off, get in the mirror, let your gut out. And if you like what you see, keep doing what you're doing. But if you don't like what you see, don't be like Facebook and like all these people online. Don't do it to yourself. Face yourself. Face the reality of your own gut, right?
Don't blame the mirror. Don't get angry at the mirror.
Don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Don't ignore it. That's what most people do, is ignore it. That's the number one thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Pumping Iron, he cut his shirts in half so his gut would hang out. So he could
force him to look at it.
So he could see it. So he wouldn't forget about it. He would be like, I'm overweight.
And then other people were seeing it. So it was like that shame. He forced himself to feel shame to force himself to fix it.
Right. So let's go into this. So this leads into other people, right? So here's the thing. Here is what I believe the true thing that's going on in Instagram and teen girls in particular. What's going on is it, like I said before, we faced men's violent nature, and we have definitely made laws, and society understands. This is there's no elephant in the room when it comes to male weaknesses and mistakes, right? But there's a big mistake, because there's two types of violence. There's something called, there's violence, like physical violence, and there's also what's called RA, or relational aggression. Okay, so RA is a type of aggression, and I wanted to get into this more, but I don't know. We're already 2 hours and 10 minutes in. I don't know how much longer I want to go on this one, but basically, if you look up relational aggression, you will come to a whole, this is something that just purely for the mental health of girls, they're having to face this. If it didn't affect girls, I don't think there would be much research on it. If just guys were getting affected by it. But a lot of the things that we talk about as men, that we're not happy in relationships, it comes to relational aggression. Women are violent, but not in a physical violent way. Women tend to use what's called relational aggression in order to get their way. And that's like shaming other people, cutting people out of groups, keeping people out of the loop, ignoring people. So it's basically, when you think about the mean girls type of stuff, these are the tactics that women use in order to get their way. Okay, so bullying,
reputation destruction.
Yes.
Making everybody turn against you. Yeah, working on other people to put stories in their heads so then they all turn on you.
Yes.
Things like that.
So relational aggression is the big elephant in the room behind Facebook. See, we know that there are a lot of people that are being destroyed online, and it's causing we know a lot of stuff's happening, right? Yeah, we know, that's why this is becoming such a big debate. We see in our families, we see in our friends, but we can't put a label on it. We're like, what is going on here? Is this the picture of Donald Trump is a perfect example? Is that what's doing it? What is the factor? And it is I postulate, it's my theory, that what is being not talked about or even understood is what social media is enabling. See, if social media is virtual, there's no physical hands. So violence is not part of it. And of course, you can talk about violence all you want, like a book we're talking, but that's not the same as a violent person in your room, right?
Yeah.
If you ever had a violent person in your room, you know the difference. It's like reading a book about it and having the guy in your room is totally different, right? So what goes on online that is just as disruptive as physical violence is relational aggression. So what we're seeing is two things are behind this whole debate that no one wants to talk about. One of them is the fact that obesity and being overweight is really the root cause of why people feel bad about their bodies, right? And is affecting human lives. But the other thing is, and I think this is the big one, is relational aggression. And I'll do another episode on relational aggression because I think that it's too much to put onto this one. And I want to take a breath and think about it. And then maybe in the future, I've planned a relational aggression video for a long time, but I haven't quite.
Maybe that could be like a part 2.
It's a huge thing because it's women's form of violence. And it's a women's preferred form of violence. And it's something that we have dealt with. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about that we're unhappy with is that we're being attacked by women, but it's not being acknowledged. And it's subtle and it's confusing. And it's very difficult to even label. So even with relational aggression experts, they have a difficulty in seeing it in others. It's like one of these like really subtle things. And it's the perfect tool, really, because it's so difficult. There's always an excuse for it. There's always like, oh, we weren't doing that. We were trying to help her. Just like you told the other person that, trying to help them. And you're like, oh, yeah, I did do that. But because how do you prove intent, right? It's one of these things that is, it's like this ghost. You're fighting against this ghost. When you're fighting against relational aggression, it's like you're fighting against this ghost and you get paranoid and it's difficult to understand and it's extremely hurtful. Anybody who, I will say this, of the studies I've done of abused children, is that if there's a choice of a family, let's say that there's a clear-cut example of a family where the child was abused by relational aggression or by physical violence, the children that have experienced both will always say the same thing. They will always say, the physical violence was bad, and it was scary, and it was terrible. But much more destructive was the relational aggression. It totally destroyed my life. People will talk like that. Children that experience both. So it is my belief that relational aggression is the big elephant in the room that society is not facing right now. Mm-hmm. We've faced the darkness in men. We have not faced, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to say the darkness in women, because this is their preferred form. Men can also use relational aggression, and that is a key part of it. As with all evolutionary strategies, they have evolved because they work to get what you want. Right. The reason why murder exists, is because, let's say there was 2 guys that were vying for the same female. And then, 2 cavemen. And then the other caveman comes with a rock and smashes the guy's head at night. And then she chooses him.
He's like, hey, it worked.
He's the guy who's left. Right. No. His genes would survive because of that.
Right.
So it was just like, it wasn't even her decision. His genes would now be passed on.
Right. And
the genes of the guy who decided to do that.
Yeah.
So the reason why these traits exist is they're not gender specific, but also because they're effective. They allow you to get what you want, right? Now, of course, sometimes they have long-term benefits or negatives that will hurt you more than they help you. But again, short-term.
The genes mostly care about the short term, like surviving a little longer, surviving to the next generation is all the genes care about.
Yeah, it's just like as long as the guy lives old enough to have a kid,
right,
the genes will go on, right? And relational aggression is a way to get what you want socially, right? And to it's a form of violence with long-lasting consequences, right? Very serious consequences. So
Like they laugh. Yeah, that's I would say the main difference between the relational aggression and then the physical violence is that the physical violence, it happened, it's done, it's over. You physically heal from it, and then it's over. Whereas the relational aggression, often it brews, and it just like it continues on and keeps iterating and keeps spreading out in all these different ways. And it just keeps attacking you on a regular, in very subtle and not so subtle ways, and it keeps...
Well, it's two things. Like, one, you're fighting a ghost.
Yeah.
You know, without education. You're fighting a ghost. You're fighting this thing. You don't understand what it is. It's behind you. Oh, it's on top of you. It's behind. It's underneath you. Where is it? It's like this supernatural thing. Whereas, like, violence is something we understand. Just inherently, we understand it. It's easier to see.
You're feeling it.
You feel
fist,
it.
You see the fist coming.
You can see it in their face.
Yeah.
You can see it in their face. We've evolved to see 100,000 human emotions in the face, and that's for survival. Because is the guy smiling because he's your friend, or is he going to smash you with a rock? Mm-hmm. Right? That's a different smile, right? That subtle difference is what we've evolved to know, so that our genes survived, right? But with relational aggression, is I think that this is what, as society's kind of gotten more sophisticated and people have gotten much more sophisticated in hiding their intention, and you know what I mean? Like, it's gotten easier to nail people, so they find another way. It's like when you try to crack down on crime, then they just do it more underground, you know? So it's like, it's just gotten more and more underground. And relational aggression is, I think, to me, I would say it's the big elephant in society's room today. And there probably are some reasons why it's not being faced, because it's women's choice of violence. It's female violence tends to be relational aggression. And more men are using it too, because it's an effective tool in getting what you want. And so men do use it. And I believe that as men are getting more feminized, because it's the better choice, it's the more successful choice. As a man, standing up as a man, masculine man, you get attacked. Whereas the more feminine, you get under the radar. You get forgiven, you know. And anyway, I think that I see more and more men who are passive aggressive, who do use relational aggression and aren't straightforward. And so I see this growing. I see this growing as a problem in society, not just for women, but more and more guys are figuring out, so, ooh, I can use this. I can win, right? And you see this. And to me, it's just like, it's. I think this is what is really behind. So let me end on this. So the Wall Street Journal article talked about, in the old days, like say in junior high school, before the internet, you would go to the cafeteria. And that was where everything went down, socially. It didn't go down in the classroom. Everything that went down, all the relational aggression, all the violence, everything, all the challenges, all the drama of school didn't happen in class. It happened in the hallways and in the cafeteria.
Or in the playground or something.
Yeah, in the playground. Yeah, exactly. Or the bus. It was not in the classroom. The classroom was just mainly people listening to the teacher and everything. And then it was outside. All the dramas happened, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we have here, again, we have society. So Facebook is the new cafeteria for teen girls. Mm. So just like Instagram is the new mirror and scale for weight. Facebook and Instagram are the new cafeteria. So what we're having people being shut out, people being ignored, people being put down, people being driven literally to suicide. Because relational aggression is not like being overweight. This is serious. This is the one that causes girls to actually do it. This is much more serious than being obese. This is the one. This is the real problem. The real problem is that Facebook, I believe, is unlocking the ability of groups to work together and freeze people out and do all these things that are so destructive in like relational aggression tactics. It's allowing this to happen even with people you don't know.
Right, it's become
the cafeteria is huge.
It's a globalized cafeteria where instead of just having a few people against you, suddenly you could have millions against you, and it's just like your brain can't process that much.
And this one isn't Facebook's fault.
Yeah.
This one is different. Now, Facebook will choose political things and this and that. Facebook does not have any algorithm for this one. This is so subtle you don't even see it with your own eyes. You have to feel it, that you're being cut out of something. You're being ignored by a group of people. This has nothing to do with Facebook. Zero. All it is it is a way of acting to feel powerful and get what you want. That is it now has more avenues for doing it. It's like you could steal money in the West. Then you could rob banks. Then you could steal someone's password on their Bitcoin, on their wallet, their private keys, and you could take their money. It's just a more sophisticated way to do the same thing, right? So, as there's more money, as there's more, the same thing's happening. People are ripping each other off, right? It's just that it's happening using new tools, right? And that's what relational. That's what we're saying. The reason why the real elephant in the room is not about some regime change somewhere. It isn't. It isn't. The real thing is that relational aggression is a very destructive, violent way of getting control of things. And it is mainly used by females. And it is destroying society. So that is the real thing that's going on. Facebook is just a blank slate for people to do these things to each other. And there's no way Facebook can stop it. Even people that are experts in relational aggression have a very difficult time putting a thumb. They know when it's happening to them or somebody they really know. But like far away people, like let's say a teacher is like a expert in relational aggression, she has difficult seeing it in her classroom because it's so subtle. It's not always in the classroom, right? Unless you're involved in it, you can't really see it, When I do the relational aggression episode, I'll go into the tactics, how it feels. We'll go into deep into it. But I think this is really where we should stop because it's showing that this society does not want to face violent female behavior. And just like violent male behavior is not always male. Women are also violent. If you look at statistics of violence at homes, it's not like 99-1.
Yeah, actually, I think I read the stat that something like 70% of all domestic violence starts with the woman punching or hitting the guy first or doing some kind of physical on the guy. But then the guy also maybe causes more damage, but typically 70% of the time it's the woman who instigates the violence to begin with. But then the guy...
Let's forget about instigating because let's face it, there's a difference between getting punched in the face and somebody just pushing you. You know what I mean? Like, let's not go there with that one. But I want to say that women do use violence at times, like real violence. Right. Let's not talk about instigation. That's a whole nother issue. But let's talk about violence. Men do use violence, okay? Mm-hmm. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah. We do use it. And it's like we use it in the schoolyard with our friends. You in a bar, you get in a fight, then your buddies, right? Well, men use it, right? We just do. And it's the way we always. Animals, dogs do it. You can see it in dogs. And then they decide the hierarchy and then it's all done. It's all fine. Mm-hmm. Right? Once we know where we are in the hierarchy, men are fine, right? But women do use violence at times. They will take a frying pan, for example, and beat a guy to death when he's sleeping, right?
Yeah, I got hit with a rolling pin in the back of my neck when I was just sitting writing an email, and this one girlfriend that just was upset about something. She just comes up behind me.
That's what I'm talking about. Back of neck with a That's what I'm talking about. Let's talk about real violence. Women do it, right? Not instigate. Let's real violence. That's real violence right there. That's a perfect example. But it's not as common as men overall, statistically, right? Relational aggression is much more. It is almost a female characteristic, and any relational aggression expert will tell you that. If you study relational aggression, you're basically studying girls, and especially teen girls. So teen girls is when this stuff really heats up and really goes crazy. So it's not a surprise that we're talking about teen girls now in Facebook. It's because this is the boiling this is the cauldron of, it is when females are learning their powers, they're practicing, they're trying, they're learning social skills, and they're getting beaten down by other women. And like this whole thing is going on. And of course, emotions run really high when you're a teen, and you feel it. When you're being shut out, you really feel like it's the end of the world. There's no hope. Teens are, really can't see things in perspective yet. Their brain hasn't fully developed. So it's really serious. We need to, as adults, we need to step in with teens, because teens don't see the world the way adult brain. Our brain matures till we're about 27, I think. So teen girls don't have the tools to see this in perspective. So it's very important that society does face this. Again, for teens themselves. We're not here, this is not, the reason why we want to tackle this darkness in females mainly is because we don't want this darkness to envelop us. Like, we all have darkness in us. It's important to face that, and to just be honest about it. And in ourselves too, as men, right? Our darkness, right? It's very important to be honest about it, not to shift the blame, right? So I think what's happening is that Instagram and Facebook are they're the tool, they're the perfect tool for relational aggression to happen. Because you can send messages privately, you can taunt somebody, girls can like taunt them, like publicly they can write a good thing about their friend and then send them messages that are very hurtful. Relational aggression is about, it's about doing things sneakily, under the radar,
right,
without getting caught. It's a lot of it is in the subterfuge and double meaning. The girls are wondering, was she complimenting me or was she putting me down?
Was it backhanded?
Yeah. Then they asked their moms, she said this, and then the mom's like,
"Hey, you're looking a little skinnier today." It's like, wait, does that mean I was fat before? Like, yeah,
right. And there's the self-doubt that teen girls have too, but a lot of it is like deliberately not clear. And now I want to just end on,
actually, to connect the two. So the relational aggression is one of the things that it's using a lot, is using the 1 in 3 girls being overweight. That's one of the things. It's
of course,
it's using that as one of its fodder to be able to say, hey, that's a great one we can latch on to use as a weapon to tear down and to position ourselves in a better
I would suspect that's a big one.
Yeah.
But I would suspect it's one of the tools.
Right.
I don't think it's the main one. I think that one is more internal. Yet, obviously, if you know somebody's struggling with something, it's the perfect thing to talk about too.
Well, because it's so verifiable. It's such a visual, verifiable thing.
Right.
As opposed to like, it's something relation-wise or with your parents that, you could say the story, but it's easy to point out a picture.
Right. And also you show that a very cute guy is interested in you by all your likes. There's things you do without even doing them. It's like, but they have powerful effects on other people, So all this stuff is very...
Yeah, one girl has lots of likes, and then they look at theirs, and they've got, like, hardly any likes.
Exactly. She's got one... The cute girl's got a picture in a bikini, and everybody is liking it and, commenting. And then she posts a picture, and, like, there's, like, 2 likes from, like, her best friend and her dad. And, it's like... It's very tough.
Which, like, doesn't mean anything. She's like, God, they're, like, sympathy likes.
Right. Or the wrong guy, they really don't want to, like,
they don't want sympathy likes. Oh, God.
So what's going on now is that if we want to, what we need to do as a society, it's time for us to face female aggression. That's what's missing. That's what society, that's what's not being cleansed right now. Is that men were always being portrayed as bad, and women, sugar and spice and everything nice, and puppy dog tails, and it was always that way. But what has grown so large and tools have made it even more powerful is the dark side of females. And by ignoring this, and I really want to stress this, is that we are not, I really want guys to know, you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, women do this. Look, at the end of the day, it is the protector in me that wants to tell the truth about this. Because women are being destroyed by this more than men. Women's, their focus of relational aggression is mainly other females. They will once in a while do it to guys, but And in relationships with girls, they will do it to you because that's the way they operate. People that are using it, they'll use it in every aspect of life. But the really destructive one is to other girls. That's why girls, teen girls are pretty tough. The ones that survive, because they've kind of survived these attacks over and over by other girls, Some girls can't make it. They're just too tough, They can be very brutal. The world of girls can be pretty freaking brutal for girls. And I think that it has just gotten so big. I think this is it, guys. If we want to face, if society wants to face what's really being brought up by Facebook, we need to face women's violence, and that's relational aggression, and how it's just totally out of control. It's totally under the radar, and I don't know how we're going to finally face this. It's a tough thing to face because it's so hard to put your finger on. It's as I get into it, you'll be like, you realize how slippery it is. It is so slippery and hard to catch, and there's always a million excuses, but we all know it's real. So society has to somehow tackle this very, very slippery, difficult aspect of human nature, which is violent. It is a violent, very destructive force, and it is now running wild. And even men are starting to use it because it's very effective. It's very powerful. So that is what is driving, and that cannot be done by controlling Facebook. Facebook cannot police this one. It is impossible. We as a society need to face relational aggression for what it is. Destructive, violent thing that's tearing apart families and friendships and is just totally out of control. That is the elephant in the room, I think, at the end of the day. So I'll end it there. Thanks.
That was awesome.